with your hosts, MrSniDBitS,
I don't have a problem with him, but I don't think he's that and a bag of chips.
BlackGirlMarvel,
I cried laughing. That was hilarious.
Tylermakesfilms,
That was like our favorite movie for some reason. I mean, it was really good. I enjoyed that movie.
Allthemoviethings,
I think the thing why I enjoyed it more too was the fact that we were going to talk about it from this perspective.
the pre-review with BlindBiggie,
Hey, this is BlindBiggie. Welcome to the pre-review.
and me, the real study movie voice guy.
I'm the real study movie voice guy.
Let's go to the poster wall.
Another edition of The Real Study. My name is MrSniDBitS, and with me, as always, I've got BlackGirlMarvel, I've got All the Movie Things, and Tylermakesfilms, and we are here for an all Evil Dead takeover. Let's see if we can survive the evening as these Deadites come after us. And everybody's seen these films except for BlackGirlMarvel, is that right? Am I crazy? No.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
The
Okay.
only one I had seen prior to this, or the only two, was Army of Darkness, and then the Evil Dead remake.
Oh, okay.
I've never seen the first two.
Well, then that's pretty awesome. Well, we are going to be doing Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness, and Evil Dead. As you can see, the remake from 2013 all listed there. And let's move over to the poster wall and say hello. We've already got a bunch of people in the chat saying hello, saying hi to everyone. And we are going to get right into it. We got 4 movies, and they're all connected, which is great. So it's going to kind of bleed over, but hey, that'll be fun. That said, so since you have not seen it, I'm going to let all the movie things start with Evil Dead. I would love to get your initial take on that, and then we'll do the same thing for Law and Evil Dead 2. So, Brian, go ahead and tell us, what was your initial thoughts of Sam Raimi's Evil Dead?
That I'm just surprised. I'm gonna be pretty harsh on it, I guess, but I'm just surprised that there was an Evil Dead 2. I'll just put it at that.
No.
And we got, and then we've got what we got. I will say it was very different than what I was thinking. Like, because the very first movie I'd ever seen was Army of Darkness. That was my introduction years ago, you know, and yeah, it's to me anyway. It's not the Ash that we know and love. There's very little like levity in it. It's a pretty straight up horror film, you know. And I was looking for all those little things, like just like where the classic Ash things come from, and where those other, like, none of that was really in it besides what he's wearing. You know, he's always wearing that blue kind of like denim shirt. I will say they really did a great job of trying to like work with what they had. You know what I mean? Like, even like, and like you kind of have a sense of like how many and just how small this film was just by how quick the credits roll. Like, there's not there's not that many credits. You know, you're like, oh. And another interesting thing too was like, so the person that shot it, who was essentially their DP, he doesn't have, it doesn't say director of photography, it doesn't say cinematography by, it says photography and lighting by. And I think I have a theory that is because it's so small, he didn't actually have a full-on department that he was in charge of, so they really didn't give him like a full cinematographer credit. But which I totally understand. That I've been like my own gaffer and, you know, grip and everything before on projects before, so I have a feeling that's what he was doing. Like, he was doing a little bit of everything on this as far as the camera and lighting was going. But also, it's fun to see Joel Cohen's name in there. This was like, he was like an assistant editor on this, like the Joel Cohen, from the Coen brothers. Was this was like an early thing, which is weird because it's only 3 years before Blood Simple came out, you know. So he like went pretty far from after this. I think he worked on Darkman also. He did something on Darkman, which is another Sam Raimi directed thing. But yeah, it was very different than I was expecting. But yeah, I can appreciate a lot of it. Like, I will say it was kind of rough to get through. But if I was to rank them, this might be my like lowest ranking one.
Okay. That's
So,
fair.
yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Lala, what do you feel about Evil Dead 1981?
Okay, so I got high when I watched this, and
It's probably the
Nice.
preferred method.
it was the funniest thing I watched. Like I was
Yeah.
cracking up. Okay, I already told these guys this, but I'll want everybody else to know. So I'm from Michigan too. So knowing that like Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell, Ted Raimi, Rob Taper, like I think Rob Taper too. No, Rob Taper is New Zealander. But like just to know that those guys were like from Michigan. There was like they were like a crew from Michigan. They created like this small film that like somehow whatever however many years later is now like a thing. It's like a cult classic. It's like they started off with this little idea with like I'm pretty sure like $5 to $100 in budget. Like it was like it's very low budget. But they made it work, and so like as an aspiring artist, that's
Yeah.
like very like I love that. Like I love that. Oh, thanks, Betsy. I love that. I love that about this film. Like that's like my favorite thing. Like the whole time I was laughing at all this stuff. I don't even think they meant for me to laugh, but I was laughing at all these things. And part of me was still like very proud to be like a Michigander. Like I'm never really like I'm always trying to get out of Michigan, but I was like watching this film very proud to be a Michigander. I thought it was funny, even though I know it wasn't supposed to be funny. It's like straight up horror, and I was like, "Oh, this is what everybody's been telling me. This is why everybody was super excited about Sam Raimi directing Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness." And I didn't understand why because I've never seen any of these films. So I was like, "Okay, I mean, Spider-Man director's doing it. Like, calm down." Like I didn't understand. And now I understand. Like I watch these films and I'm like, oh, he kind of let me down in that movie. Like he still let me down, even though I've never seen it. And now seeing his films, I'm kind of let down for Doctor Strange. I'm like severely let down now. I was like a little let down. Now I'm like a really let down because I'm like, you had all these things that you did when you didn't have a budget, and now you had a budget, and I was like, where are the things? Where's the imagination and creativity that you?
I think
put
Marvel
into these,
really
like,
just like shoved it up. Like
something happened, man. Something happened. But I thought these films were like very funny. I thought like I do think some of the scenes were like too long. They played too long for some of these scenes. I was like, how many times deeper we gonna go into this hole before you try to scare us? Because it was just too much. It became so like I was like nervous at first, but then it was so much that I was like, all right, just pop up out the thing so I can get to the next scene, because it was like they went on too long, and I know he was just trying to like stretch that film out, like he tried to get every morsel, he tried to wring that towel dry, like he was trying to get every juice he could get from it, and I respect that too. I honestly thought the acting, Bruce Campbell, to me, maybe it's because I'm a fan of his already, that when I look back on this, I could see why he's Bruce Campbell. I can see why he's, but it's like. But it's like
have the chin then.
No, like yes. So like maybe that's like a reason why when I watched this, I was like, oh, okay, like he's pretty good. And like the guy who plays Scotty is pretty good. Them women were terrible. I said, Lord,
until they were in makeup, then they were great.
My gosh, I was like it, because honestly, okay, this is no offense. I know it's some diehard Evil Dead people in there. I love that Evil Dead now too, though. Like they could be terrible, but they could be great at the same time. I'm the person who liked the Super Mario live action movie, so like, so that should tell you something about me. And so, but like, these women had to be chosen for like because they were pretty. But my God, I was like, why? I was like, the girl was looking like she was like looking in a hole. She was like, no, I want to go. Yeah. I want to go. And I was just like, we need to cut because this is not working for me. I was like, this is not working. But I will say this though, it's one of the funniest things for me about this film is just how I hope Brian comes back. I don't think he appreciated what I said. One of the funniest things for me about this film is that like it was serious. That's the funniest thing to me. That they were like, we are going to make a hardcore horror film, and I just cracked up laughing the entire time. I was just like, so the fact that it kind of transitioned into like this comic horror thing, I really feel was the right way to go, because I was like, I'm not even in like the later, like even in like the 2013 one, was not scared at all. I was just like, it was nothing scary about that. It was interesting to watch, but there was nothing scary about it. There was nothing scary to me about any of these films, but they were very entertaining. And I enjoyed the entertainment factor. I don't watch a lot of entertaining things anymore. Everything wants to like either educate you on something you don't really care about, or just talk you over the head with some stuff you don't really care about. Nothing is just like, I'm gonna give you this for pure entertainment. And I feel like that's what Evil Dead is.
All right.
Because they're all the same. They all the same. They ain't changed up the style at all. They're all the same.
Yeah.
1 and 2 literally, but you know.
Yeah.
Tyler, what was your take on Evil Dead? Was this your first viewing of the Evil Dead?
No, so this was my third time. So I also decided to watch it very enhanced per se. It was a great time. Bruce Campbell, like, I don't know if this is gonna upset people. I think he reminds me of like a Charlie Chaplin, like the way he can like command the screen kind of thing. But he also reminds me of Nick Cage a little bit. Like
I get that too. I'm not mad at none of that.
Right.
That's
Man,
all
those are,
nice.
like,
Charlie
I
Cage
respect
out
Nick
here. You know,
Charlie Cage. I love that.
Yeah, I love films that like, especially when it's like that tight of a budget, and you can tell there's that hunger for trying different things and making everything work. I know it's like an iconic shot, the one where like they zoom through the forest and stuff. That gets me every time, because every time I think about it, I'm like, how the fuck did you do that?
Yeah, I know.
Like,
I was just thinking
how-
that too. Like literally watching this one. Yeah, it's like every time.
Do you know how they did it? Because I forgot to look it up before the podcast. But
as far as I know, it was Sam with the camera on a stick running and twisting it back and forth. Quite literally, a lot of that film was that kind of stuff where they were just
honestly
throwing stuff at each other and running at each other. Like,
I noticed that. I don't know if it was the Army. I think it was the second one. It was Evil Dead 2, because Evil Dead 2 leads into Army of Darkness, right?
Yeah,
it was like when he was laying on the
directly.
ground. He was laying on the ground. He was like getting sucked into the portal. And like the hands are coming up, and he's trying to like, you know, he's like holding himself. I could literally tell it was just wind. Like they had like a fan on him. It was blowing, and they were moving the camera like this to get the feel that he's like being dragged. And I was just like, that's cool. Like I could see right through it, but I was like, that's cool. I was just like, I just thought it was cool. But continue, Tyler. Go ahead.
No, yeah, I think I still like it a lot. I don't even know if I can rank all of these movies, to be honest, because they're all kind of like one huge movie, because they're all like bite-sized too. They're only an hour and a half maybe each,
which I love.
Right. Yeah, it made it easier to watch these. I think leaning into the absurdity was part of the horror aspect. So like I dug whenever they would take extra long, because it is kind of like comical how long they would take on certain shots where they're like they're going into this hole. It's like and sometimes maybe they won't even reveal anything, which is dope too. Like, that's my favorite.
Yeah, when like that one demon was like dying, whatever, I was like, hurry up. Like
it kept melting.
Not
It
dead
kept
yet.
melting. Yeah.
No,
God.
that was the longest scene of all time. It was the longest scene.
It felt so
I was just
long.
like, and then it was like part claymation, part
like it's still going.
If you watch it
dying.
20 times or so, like myself, it becomes a little faster because you're ready for it. So it's not so bad once you've seen Evil Dead a few times.
Oh my God.
Did you have more, Tyler? Because if you have more, I'd
no,
like
I was just like, it's the joke that someone tells, and it's not funny, and then the more they tell it, you're like, okay, now it's kind of funny. Like,
right.
I see that.
So this is actually Evil Dead 1981 is actually the second film Bruce and Sam made together. They actually made Within the Woods up there in Michigan, which is a short film, and that actually inspired them to go ahead and try to make this full-length feature. So you should check that out, Law, just in case you wanted to. You know, it's terrible. Like, no offense, Sam, but it's pretty awful.
I'm sure he knows.
I'm sure he does too, and I'm sure he even knows Evil Dead is awful because he remade it and then remade it again. So you know he understood. I think one of the things I noticed this time around for myself, and I couldn't give you my initial impression because it was back in the 90s that I saw this the first time, but I love that he took all the rules of cinema for horror and or for just general cinema and threw them either out the window or went to the full extreme. So like the lighting was fully extreme, or he'd tilt the camera, or he'd do all the things you would want to do to make people uncomfortable. And he did it completely, like with every shot once everything started to get going. And I don't think you see people taking those kinds of risks because most people don't want to watch the camera, you know, at this angle all the time. It's a little too much. Or even like some of the shots where he'd come down from above Bruce's head and then pan down and things like that were just, they're meant to make you uncomfortable. But in a way they're just more jarring. But they're meant to be because the demons are after all these kids and trying to kill them. Did you guys notice the necklace that he gives Linda in the first one carries through the entire series, except for Army of Darkness, which I thought was kind of neat that carries through.
I was like, this gigantoid necklace. What are we doing? I was like, what are we doing with this? I was like laughing so hard at that necklace. I was just like,
some fun bits
like,
just for the sake of throwing them out there. When he shoots when Bruce or Ash shoots the shotgun out the window, it's a real shotgun, and he's shooting a real bullet. And this was, of course, not a Hollywood production, and they had the crew off to this side while he shoots that way just to make sure he doesn't hit them. But that's how kind of guerrilla, warfare style filming they did. But yeah, I could see why, Brian, why you were like, how did they get a second one? And I think it's because people laughed at it, because people had the reaction that Law had, that people kind of demanded more. Like, can you do more of the, like, that funny horror movie? And he's like, it wasn't meant to be funny.
Yeah, it wasn't funny.
So I think he just leaned into it on purpose. Besides, he's a like professed fan of the Three Stooges, and as you watch 2 in Army of Darkness, you can absolutely tell that he's a fan of the Three Stooges.
Oh my God, when he's like, they're doing the whole thing, like the whole like, and then he was getting slapped by everything from all the hands and stuff like that.
But then they'll still like shove the fist up his throat and like make him all like, and that's gross. So like it's gross and slapstick simultaneously, which is pretty fantastic.
Can I just say, Sam, as a woman, I don't appreciate the Woods raping anyone. I don't appreciate any, like, it was a girl got raped in like every film, and I was just like,
basically,
we gonna keep this going, okay, because like the first one was
showed it less and less.
They got like the first one was like,
okay. I was like, whoa,
I was like, did she just get raped? Like, did she just get raped?
Essentially.
And then essentially by a tree, by a demonic tree. I was like,
and not polite, like not politely.
It was very, if I'm being totally honest, because I've been down these slides. It was very Japanese hentai-ish. It was very, very bracing. I was like, well, geez Louise. And then like slowly but surely they clinked it up a little bit. But by the time we got to the 2013 one, that's hilarious. When we got to the 2013 one, that one was like, I was like, don't go. I was like, don't do what I think you're gonna do. Don't, because when she spit it up, I was like, nah, they ain't gonna do it. It's 2013. I was like, nah, they not gonna do that. And sure enough, they shoved that thing up her vagina, and I was just like, all right, I guess that's the only way to possess a woman, I guess. Because I don't know, what you go on the backside with dudes, like, but you're not showing that. But all right, child. I was very disappointed in that. But again, it's 1981. Like, sensibilities and sensitivities are way different throughout the years. So I was like disgusted. Then I was like, I know what year it is, and I kind of just like moved past it. And I still enjoyed the films, but that was just one aspect that I was just like, ugh, we could have did without. You could have been more creative than,
It is one of the reasons it got an NC-17 rating, and it is the only one of the 4 that has an NC-17 rating. Although the 2013 has an uncut or an unrated version, which is, I hate to say it, but more gritty than the one you saw, which is like, wait, huh?
Is that why the first one's hard to find like a place to stream it? Because
it might be because it is technically rated NC-17. So
probably
anywhere.
But then it reminded me of Xena Warrior Princess, where Gabrielle gets raped by a demon. Then she gets pregnant, and I was just like, we needed some ideas, huh, guys? We just decided to take that little chestnut, and it just made me think of it. They're all connected. I was just like, okay.
If you think about
What?
evil, though, and evil being the epitome of evil, rape is an evil thing, and it seems like right in the wheelhouse of a demon. I'm not saying they should do it, but it does fit the antagonist without a doubt. I mean, it makes perfect sense that it would just destroy every
for Xena,
sensibility
they
of
were-
life. No,
for
not in
Xena, they were
Xena.
doing
I'm
it-
saying in Evil Dead.
No. I know what you mean for Evil Dead. I'm just saying though, like in Xena, it was done in a way for there to be like an antichrist type of thing. Like that's why they did it. It was like I understand why they did it for that. It's but also I don't know. It's just I get you trying to smooth it over. It was just
No,
still,
I'm
like,
not trying to. I'm just saying if
yeah,
your
it's
brain
just,
is
it's
trying to
weird.
go to what's the most evil things you can think of, that's definitely going to come up. Now, whether you should still decide to put it into a film is a totally different discussion. But all the things that are done to these people are pretty awful. Dismemberment.
right.
It's like
Yeah.
you can still
Yeah.
put it in a film. It's like how much do you show?
Right. Right.
No,
Is
for
the
sure.
thing. Like,
I don't think Sam Raimi had like an extended conversation about it. He probably like, yeah, that's evil. This is good.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You're right.
Especially in the
No,
first
because-
one.
Right,
yeah,
yeah.
because like honestly, in the first one, it was almost pornographic. It was
Mhm.
almost like it was a porno, like they shot a porno. Like it was almost
Mhm.
pornographic because like she was screaming at first, and then she started moaning as though she enjoyed it, and I was just like, that's not what you want. I was like, that's not what you want, because in the last one when it happened to her, like she screamed like bloody murder.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like she screamed like bloody murder. So to me, that I was like, okay, that's like it's painful. This is a thing that's like being like the first one made it kind of sexualize it, and I was just like, nah, we don't need to do that. But we can get off this topic. But like I said, I still enjoyed the films. That was just one aspect that I was like, we had to carry that throughout the whole series. We did not have to
Yeah.
do that
Mhm.
because in Army of Darkness, the girl was like all these chicks just ain't had no tops on. It was all like all titties out and just getting raped, and I was just
I know. I was like,
well,
where did they even
dang.
come from?
No, like literally,
Where did those girls come from?
They're
I'm
in a
gonna give it to you.
graveyard.
chained up,
Like-
just chained up girls, nipples out. You're just like, okay,
Yeah.
where did you find these women? It's like, okay, and
Mhm.
that's how it is. Every movie had a nipple. I think except for the 2013 one. Every movie had a nipple
Right.
except for the 2013 one.
You might be right.
Yeah.
Nip-
Oh,
Nipple
I'm
Man
correct.
Raimi. Nipple Man Raimi.
No. That's hilarious. I mean, if you think about it, Spider-Man, in the rain, nipples is out. They was
Okay, so how about we use that as a great way to segue to Spider-Man? We'll get off this subject for just a moment, as you said. So did you notice, if you go back and now rewatch Spider-Man 2, the whole Doc Ock scene in the actual OR when they're going to rip his arms off, it's all Sam Raimi's Evil Dead, like shot for shot, every part of that entire sequence. So you need to go rewatch Spider-Man 2 Law and check that out, because you're going to go, oh, I see exactly where all this came from. So
I don't know what you're talking about, sir. But I probably will now and be like, well.
Yeah, it's all those
Oh,
crash zooms
yeah.
and
No,
and all
when
that
he
kind of
was
stuff, like,
zooming
yeah.
to people's faces, like zoom, or like that classic shot of him whenever he says like groovy baby, like it's like always like
Yeah.
down here, it's like down, it's like a nice.
Well, like an Army of
shot.
Darkness, you can really see it when he's building his hand. It's all like all that, like every time they grab like.
Oh,
a
they do it
tool,
like extra too.
boom,
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's so awesome. Yeah,
yeah, lots of zoom.
And I just thought it was so funny that like I do like the fact that Ash isn't spared. Like I do. Okay, on one instance, I feel bad for Ash, because if you take this as like a continuity type of thing, like if you see him in the first one, how young and innocent he is, and then he gets so jaded by the time he gets to Army of Darkness. He's telling people to stop effing touching him, and he's like, "Shut up, get out of the way." He's like, "You calling them primitives or primates or something like that." He's just
all
so
the
fed up
names
with
he
life.
calls them. Yeah,
He's just so fed up with life, and he's just like, I
Yeah.
feel bad for him because he got tossed into this thing. Like he was a curious little kid, which always happens, curious little kid, and then like all this trash just started happening to him, and it's like, and then you think about like Ash versus Evil Dead, then you think about the TV show, and you're just like, bro, just can't get away
no.
from this life that he did not ask to be in. Like he just can't get away from this life, and it's just like I felt some sympathy for him, but also I just thought it was amazing that like he just became like this expert fighter.
There you go.
And it was just like you really weren't
Almost like
fighting
had to
that
be,
hard. You really wasn't fighting that hard to just all of a sudden know how to karate chop. I just thought it was so.
We don't
It's
know
so
his
good,
background,
man.
though. We don't know what he decided to do,
Listen,
post college.
the
Like we don't
the
know.
fact that he MacGyvered
I mean,
a way to put this this chainsaw in his hand was downright hilarious. That in Army of Darkness they was like, no, he read chemistry books and stuff like that. He know how to do stuff. It's cool.
Yeah.
Like this is why he knows. I was just like, he just knows how to do stuff.
He knows how to,
You in medieval time.
He's a
Yes, you're in
classic.
medieval-
He's a classic movie hero. He does not need to be shown on screen knowing these things. He just knows them.
I loved every minute of it. I thought it was just so funny. Anytime he did something new, wherever he was, I thought it was downright hilarious. Because how are you in the medieval times and you create like a robot arm? Like I was just like, okay.
So
I'm like, okay. I was like, if I can enjoy Fast and the Furious, I can enjoy this. Just saying.
Not only robot arms, but made out of just armor and leather. So
yeah, like a blacksmith made the damn thing. Like,
but then he noticed he built a screwdriver to like actually like that blew my mind. So
that was giving me like Tony Stark
vibes. Yep, totally.
Yeah.
Going back to the first film, do you guys think that the makeup was too much, or do you think it was the right amount for the film at the time?
At the time, I think it was the right amount because it was a lot. Like he did some twisted stuff. Like he did some very elaborate, like cheeks hanging type of thing. And I think with the budget that he had, I think he did just enough. Because I think he spent the rest of the budget on like fake blood sprouting everywhere. So like, I think he did the best he could. Yeah.
What do you think, Tyler?
When did The Exorcist come out?
72, 73.
72. Okay.
Early 70s.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it reminded me of, is like some of the special effects from that. So like I was like, no, this is good. This is the right amount. It's evil.
Yeah,
it feels evil.
for the time. Yeah, for sure.
I know you're a bit of a naysayer on this particular film, Brian, but what did you think of the makeup effects?
I mean, you could see it like kind of just falling apart in spots. Like one of the actresses was like screaming and moving her mouth a lot, and the application was actually lifting up.
I saw that. Yeah, it was like rare.
And I was like, oh, like I don't know. I just wonder if like it looked like it was really heavy, like it was very thick. So I wonder if they like could have like pulled it back a little more, you know, and maybe not put so much on there. But because like in the beginning when you first see the first demon, it looks really great, you know, and it's not like super like goopy or like thick, or you know, maybe that's what he was trying to go for. I don't know. To me it looked like it wasn't supposed to be there.
It reminded me of like, because I did a zombie film before where you would use that thing. I forgot what the makeup was called, but then you would use like paper towels, and like constantly that thing would like flap up. So that's all I kept thinking of, was like, that's a paper towel, isn't it?
That little trick. Yep.
So there are moments in this film where you can see the like hose, you know, like the actual like garden hose that they have for like spewing blood, and there's a lot of that if you look. And Raimi has gone, raked himself over the coals many times for a lot of those shots. In 2, you can see through the ceiling on a few shots because they're moving the camera so much that you see they're on a set. But these are things that I think make the film kind of magical in a sense, because you get to see a little behind the curtain, and even makes it a little easier to digest, if you will.
And you can see it on screen though too, as far as like how it's progressing, because man, like, so I watched these in kind of a weird order just because like out of necessity. So I watched Evil Dead 2 first, and then I watched Army of Darkness. And those are like, right up next to each other. Even between those two, Army of Darkness is like 92. Evil Dead 2 was like what? 80,
88, I believe.
87, 88, yeah. And the budget between just those two, just looking at the armor of the folks in the end of Evil Dead 2, and then you look at the armor in Army of Darkness, you're like, whoa, it's like they had such a bigger budget in Army of Darkness. Like, it was crazy. Plus they had Universal backing them. And which was like, there's a story, Bruce Campbell talked about that, but we can get to that in Army of Darkness. But yeah, just the budgets, like you can see just the progression of like filmmaking technique and budget,
across,
dramatically different from each film. It's so crazy.
Yeah. And it's like they all use the same tropes of the original, of the 81 one. Like, so it's like every film
kept that.
Every film always had like some chick getting possessed, somebody levitating, somebody cutting off an arm or a body part or something like that. Like, it was like a lot of things that like, especially with the last one. Like the first one and the last one sync up very well because of what they are. It's like a recreation of the first one, but they all have those same tropes within. Like they all have those same tropes. Like anytime I was watching it, I was like, I kind of knew what was happening next. I was like, oh, he's lingering on this. He's going back and forth because somebody's going to pop up here, and then it happens, and I'm just like, because I've been watching them. I watched them in succession, so like I saw, because like the first one and the second one, that shouldn't even be a part 2 because they don't even. You just remade the same movie. You was just like, we got $200 more. So
yeah, like exactly. Like I'm trying to add a little more time, maybe, but like I'm trying to think of like
because he cut the fat in the second one. Like the first one was a lot of exposition, a lot of building these people. The second one, they got right to the cabin, right to the dying, right to the cut. Like they got right to. I was like, we waste no time.
A little more of that comedy and that levity in the second one.
Yeah, in the second one,
yeah. But I'm like in my head too. After watching like the order that I did, I watched the first one last. I'm like thinking like, what is going on in Ash's head in number 2? Like, shouldn't he be this has already happened to me before.
I said this.
So
I said this.
There's two things. There's two ways you could approach this. Either it's a soft reboot, which Raimi specifically said it's not, or I know, I agree. But again, at the very end of 1, Ash is attacked by the evil dead, and for all we know, it attacked him and went with him as well to the cabin, and he just never remembered because it wiped his memory. He would never know. I mean, you could easily just retcon that and say it.
Right. I mean, I thought about that too, but I'm like, but wouldn't the demon be part of him still? Like we never see him turn into a demon.
2 times.
I mean, that's
in Evil Dead 2. He turns into a deadite twice.
Yeah, he does twice.
Right, but like not in the beginning. Like so.
Right.
I mean, wouldn't he?
No, I get it. I get exactly what you're saying though, because it's like when you just be evil this entire time.
Right.
But honestly, it was a soft reboot. It was because like, and I want Sam Raimi, to admit this. Like, I love you, Sam Raimi. I would love to work with you. I would love to be on the cast and the crew, whatever it is. But admit that this was a soft reboot because this literally was shot for shot the same movie. The only thing you did was cut 3 people from
got
it.
A cellar, like
you cut 3 people.
Well, he cut 3 people out of the beginning. They came in later. It's still the same amount of people ultimately.
No, same amount of people, but I'm just saying you cut 3 people, so you made it so that they focus on these 2 people at first. You made it so this house was already a lived-in house. You kind of gave it a thicker story as opposed to just being like, we're going up to this cabin and do this thing.
Yeah,
but
played
then
more with the lore of the book.
Yeah, with with a little bit.
And well, and you could tell he was planning the sequel. You could tell.
Yeah,
and it was like, and to me, because like I just think it's very funny that it's such a wild story to take it from like this grounded place to being like, we got transported through time. And I was just like,
I was like,
wait a second.
So bonkers, which I love.
But I still enjoyed that aspect. But I just thought it was just crazy but it's just like storytelling is storytelling, I guess. You can just like, you can go wherever your mind takes you. And I actually dig that about it. Because it's like, I honestly felt like 2013 was kind of like a weird reboot, but continuation as well too. Because they walked in the house and it was like the same stains from like the first one was in this one, and I'm just like, so we ain't gonna connect these dots. I really was sitting there the whole time, like, so when is Bruce Campbell gonna? I'm like, when is Bruce? Yeah, because
it's still supposed to take place in the same.
Yeah, she had a Michigan shirt on and everything. So like, part of me was like, where is Ash? He has to pop in somewhere.
Right.
Did you stay for after the credits on 2013?
No.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was some after credits.
There's a stinger scene for just a split second.
I'm about to go silent. I'm about to go to YouTube. I'll be right back.
Yeah, you should watch the stinger scene. It's important. So I think with these, we can rate all of them at the very end. We'll just flow right into them. And so we've kind of covered the first one. We're already kind of starting on the second one. But this was your first viewing, you said, Brian, but I wanted to get Law's kind of impression. So we'll start with Tyler. Was this your first time on Evil Dead 2, or are you like me and you've watched all of these before?
I've watched all of them before. So the second one, I don't know. I watched it when I was younger, so I don't remember a whole lot of it. And I was in and out because it was a wild movie, probably. But watching it this time, that was my first thing. Was like, I was so confused at first, but I also realized the reason why I like these movies too is as soon as they introduce the time traveling aspect where he goes back in time, there's a portal. The way I see the movies, I'm like, I mean, they can just easily be like different dimensions. Like these are all we're all peering into totally different Ashes, totally different worlds.
Yeah, Ash
like,
2.0 or Ash 616 versus 868 or whatever.
So the whole time I'm like, I mean, Sam Raimi, like he literally could say anything and he's gonna get away with it.
It's true. You're not wrong.
Yeah. She just watched it.
a live reaction from Law there about the stinger scene.
Yeah.
So it's not much, but it's something.
Pretty good. Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah, that's it. Like I thought it was better than the first for sure.
Right. Yeah.
It felt like the movie that he probably wanted to do before he did that.
I agree. I agree with that. La, what is your initial impression of Evil Dead 2?
Okay.
We'll come back to that stinger scene.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm like literally about to cry because of that scene. Okay, hold on. Give me a second. Okay, so Evil Dead 2. Evil Dead 2. If I'm being totally honest, I was watching this movie and I'm like, this is the first one. I was like, I promise you, I yelled that out in my living room. I was like, this is the first one. It's just shot in Technicolor and it's like better budget and better angles, and you're going a little bit more in depth into this like storyline or whatever.
Yeah.
I will say this, in these movies, everybody is so gung-ho. Like, people protect each other. I'm just like, that's nice. Because when they saw Ash, they attacked him immediately and tossed him down the cellar. I said, I said, Ash just doesn't have, and then to be in the third one and get kicked down a hole, I'm like, he does not have the greatest luck, this guy. Like, poor Ash. But I like the second one because I feel like, you ever know, okay, like TV shows have like pilots, and their pilots, so sometimes their pilots are filmed like months, maybe even a year before they get picked up. And so that's why sometimes people's pilots and then like the rest of their seasons are so different or discombobulated or shot different. One of the ones that's coming to my brain is Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Like if you watch their pilot episode and then you go to their second episode, you can see a huge difference in like production, how they set up things, lighting, like everything. And to me, I felt like the Evil Dead was like a pilot movie. I feel like it was a pilot film. And then Evil Dead 2 was like, this is what I was trying to do the first time.
Yeah.
And because he had a bigger budget, he can kind of like elaborate a little bit more, but he could also cut the fat on some things. And I just love it how like everybody always comes on Ash's side and they're just like, protect me. Like they always get Ash to like protect them. And I love that his name is Ashley. Like I just want to throw that out there. It's, just in case nobody knew. I'm just playing. But I love that his name was Ashley. I just like dudes who have girls' names. I think that's so cool. But I don't know, this film was like, I don't know, it was a little meatier. You could tell that the effects were a little bit better, even though it was like dead zombies, like bones. Because like this is the third one. In the third one, you could see like some people were in the bone suits, and you could see some like suits, and then some was like CGI. Like if you couldn't see their eyes, if you couldn't see the black, they were CGI. But if you could see the black, they were a person. Like I was like cracking up at that. But the second one was, I enjoyed it. I thought the acting was spot on. I cracked up when she died, but then she came back to life to say those last couple of words. And I was just like, thanks, sis. I appreciate you because we needed you at the end there. It was just, this one was more comedic for me because, mind you, like I said, I was high watching both of these. Well, I was high watching all of these. If we're going to call it spade a spade. So watching this one, I just thought it was downright hilarious. Like I was like, they leaned more into the comedy side, and I dig that. I was like, this is where you need to be. This is it, this is season 2 Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. You know where you are now. You know what you're supposed to be doing.
Right.
Like you make sense now. And so like I like that it makes me want to watch Ash versus the Evil Dead. It makes me want to watch I think like Ash versus Evil. I think that's like the movie that came out or something. Then like the TV.
So
show. I want to watch all that stuff.
There was like
Ash versus Evil Dead.
Rises.
Yeah, Ash versus Evil Dead is the show, 3 seasons. But then the Army of Darkness was originally titled Bruce Campbell versus the Army of Darkness, but they had to change that due to Universal.
Universal's like, nah.
They should have called it Medieval Dead. Like that
the
was right
whole
there.
thing behind the Army of Darkness title was Universal was trying to bank off of it. They figured like, oh, not a lot of people have really, you know, in the larger spectrum of an audience have seen the Evil Dead films. They don't know what those are. So they're trying to like jumpstart this whole thing into a new kind of thing, assuming
New generation.
so people could freshly come into this one, not having to have been like, oh, do I need to see those other Evil Dead films? So I just call it Army of Darkness.
It worked.
Yeah. No, totally. Because I didn't nothing about the Evil Dead films.
I watched Army of Darkness at first. Yeah, it was the first one I ever watched too.
Yeah, me too.
Because of what it was and because it was slapstick, because it wasn't as gory.
Yeah, and well, and it does work. Like you don't have to have watched the other two films to totally jump in Army of Darkness, which is
no, because he reboots it in the first one. Like he kind of like, I mean, he recaps it. He recaps it in the first one.
Totally.
Like,
yeah.
This is what happens. Yeah. But again, they also put in both of the scenes because like at the end of the first one, you see him scream in the woods, and then in the second one, it picks up with him screaming in the woods. So like he talks about that in the third one, and I'm just like, well, what does it mean? Isn't it because like now the way my brain is moving, I'm like, if he could jump time, if somehow these things can move him through time, then did they wipe his memory, or was he just in an alternate universe that he just didn't know what was going on? Like I took it as Evil Dead, like the Evil Dead happened, and at the end they put him in an alternate universe where he went through it all over again, but it was like a multiverse. It was like some of the things were the same, but now you got new people that you haven't seen before.
But it's still Linda, still his girlfriend Linda.
No, it is, but it's like, but it's I just but again, some things stay the same, but then some things change. Like some, you know, different people, different, or they change. And
I can't wait till we get to Army of Darkness because I think it's confirmed to me when they have 3 Necronomicons, and I'm like, okay, so there's alternate universes. Like,
yeah,
there has to be.
Okay.
Yeah. So
me
Brian,
and Tyler on the same page.
What was your initial impression of 2 when you sat down and watched it this time?
Definitely, it's so weird because I saw for this viewing, I saw it first. This is the first time I'd seen it too. So it was interesting to see, like, knowing, because I've seen Army of Darkness like a lot, like quite a bit, and I had seen the Evil Dead remake, and so I was thinking about Army of Darkness the whole time I'm watching Evil Dead 2. I'm just like, okay, I can see we're starting to see like, and that was something that I don't think I mentioned about the first about the Evil Dead was it wasn't really like Ash, like to me. It wasn't the Ash that I know and love. You know, like where's that attitude, you know, and that like cockiness he has. But then like I was like really happy to see like, okay, this is kind of like where it's kind of starting. And it was interesting to see a little bit of the history of like the book and how they're delving into that a little more. I still felt like there were still some bits that could have been trimmed up in this one. I still felt like there were some things that were a little long that kind of drug on. But even then it was still a pretty short movie. Like these are all short. But I definitely would say I enjoyed it more than, not that I didn't enjoy the Evil Dead,
but it's better. But it's better.
Yeah. It definitely is like cleaned up more, and like his poor brother's in that damn demon suit, that like
the Henrietta
so
suit. He forced Ted into that suit.
Oh god.
And like, Ted complains about that still to this day.
BTS footage of them like opening up and like dumping sweat out of the
he's just soaking wet in there,
just soaring over him like
I thought the makeup effects were like much better in this one, and just poor Bruce. I mean, they put Bruce Campbell through.
My God, yes.
Every single like, let's how wet and gross can we make Bruce Campbell?
Oh yeah, no, that's like it's like a mainstay. If you're gonna do an Evil Dead movie, you're going to be put through the ringer.
And
like
then next scene, he's fresh, fully clean.
Yeah, it's like a little bit. He can just wipe his face and he's fine, right?
Just got a little spot.
This is what I realized, right? They realized that Bruce Campbell is a handsome man. He still is to this day, actually. He's a handsome man, So what they do is they highlighted like good parts of him. Anytime blood spurt on his face, like if it covered his face, the next scene it would be a line here,
Right, a little
line
bit.
cheekbones,
Yeah.
and then a line up here, with maybe like some little sprays. But they always highlighted. They always
And it was
highlighted
always
his
like a
like
low kind of angle
his
shot.
yes, his
Yeah.
strong
Close
part.
to his face, showing his
Yep.
jaw. Like
Even when he was cut here.
Oh,
He
yeah.
was cut
Oh
on his
yeah, yeah.
cheeks,
No,
and
so
he was cut. I
all
was
his
just like,
cuts are like
y'all know
specific.
his angles. Get his angles
yeah.
correct. Yes.
Now, something I want to go over with Bruce is that this film is primarily him for a huge chunk of the film. So he is acting by himself with the camera, and the camera is, of course, the Deadites in a lot of the case where it's chasing him around. And I love the one where it's chasing him around the room, and then he disappears, and like the demon's confused for a moment, you know?
Yeah.
And then he ends up down in the cellar.
That was really great.
My favorite scene in Evil Dead 2, and this is my favorite of the 4 films, without a doubt. I absolutely adore this film, is when he starts to go mad because he's dealt with himself in the mirror, and then the freaking deer starts to laugh, right?
Yeah.
And then the lamp starts to bob up
The
and
lamp-
jam with him,
No,
and then
I
they
was
stop.
gone.
Oh,
Oh, my
man, that is gold. That is, I laugh still to this day every single time.
Like, yeah.
They
I
did
was
such a good job.
gone. I was
Yeah, no,
so
that was
gone
really-
during that
yeah.
scene. I was like, yo, he's losing it. I'm losing it.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just that when the lamp did the whole Pixar thing and then leaned over, I was like, I'm done. I was like, I'm done with these movies.
It's so
Like,
funny.
I'm so
Now
done.
the other good one is when he's fighting his hand, which is such a strange comment to make. He's fighting his hand, and he finally like watches it get caught in the mousetrap, and it flips him off. If you listen really carefully, the hand runs away, goes "son of a bitch," and like says that to him as it runs away, which is so great that the hand can talk. Like, why not?
Yeah.
You know.
But the hand is a demon, so it should be able to talk. Like it's the spirit of a demon. So like to me, that made more sense than how he jumped from the first one to the second one.
That's great. That's so great.
To say.
But I love that Raimi will lean into the puns. He'll lean into the Stooges. You know, the whole Ash breaking all the plates. You know, that's Bruce Campbell just breaking plates over his own head, dragging himself across the floor. I'm sure somebody was helping push him. But
what a G the entire time.
Right? And he, you know, and he did such a good job. But I believe that hand was possessed and that it wasn't his. Talk about good hand acting, like really.
Also, it makes me think about like that movie Idle Hand. I wonder if they were like watch Evil Dead 2 for some inspiration.
No doubt that
And then
movie definitely picked up on that.
Is it the third one? I think it's either this one or the third one where like he sees himself in a mirror and then like his little bitty selves pop up out the mirror.
That's in the third one, yeah.
Army of
That's in the
Darkness.
third one, right?
Tiny ashes, yeah.
The moment I saw that, I thought about
Gulliver's Travel action.
I thought about Little Gulliver. Yes, Little Gulliver's Travel. The moment I saw that, I thought about Pirates of the Caribbean when that happened to Jack Sparrow. So I was like, are they inspired? I was like, were they inspired by this? Because it was very similar. I was like, that's very similar. Yeah.
I think Jordan Peele did a nod in Us too with the reaching out of the mirror, choking Ash. Like immediately, I was like, oh yeah, that's right.
That was a well done scene in Evil Dead 2 because it is a different actor that is to our back, and it is Bruce Campbell in the mirror, or the fake Shemp, as Sam Raimi would put it.
Listen, all those little Ashes, they were not all the same people. They were
they were all fake Shemps, and they did that on purpose. You know, they made them all to look like Bruce as best they could. Nobody quite looks like Bruce Campbell.
I want to say Bruce Campbell does physical comedy like that a lot. Like I want to say that there's a thing in Xena Warrior Princess where he like he fights himself or like he's possessed and something happens. Oh, I think it is like Xena possesses him and he's her for a minute. So he's like playing Lucy Lawless, playing a spirit in his body. So like he's fighting himself. So it's like he's trying to walk another way, but she's trying to force him another way. Like he does physical comedy like very well. I don't think he gets a lot of credit for it though. So, yeah.
He should,
well, like
especially in this movie.
I was just mentioning Briscoe County Jr. I was a big fan of that show when it came out. It was like a show in the 90s. It was short-lived, but it was a Western, and he played Briscoe County Jr. And there's a lot of physical. It was very much up his alley too. It was a Bruce Campbell, very Bruce Campbell thing, and it was like action Western. He was kind of like a ladies' man, but there's also like this weird sci-fi element to it as well. And it was just it's a unsung gem. Like people really need to like check that one out if you can. But yeah, a lot of physical stuff he had to do in that as well.
So there are, I mean, we know that he's a physical comedian, no doubt, but I would still argue that the most underrated Bruce Campbell role has to be when he plays Elvis in Bubba Hotep. He does such a spot on job. Have you guys have none of you seen Bubba Hotep?
Bubba Hotep. I wasn't a fan of Bubba Hotep.
But you have to say his acting as Elvis was a little over the top, but he does.
Oh yeah, and he's
take
playing
the
Elvis.
role.
Elvis in like a retirement home,
right?
You know, like
so it's Elvis. Elvis and JFK are fighting a
mummy.
Yeah,
it's pretty crazy. Like,
yeah, and
he's great in it. But
yeah.
like the whole film itself, I just couldn't jump on.
That's fair.
I mean, I watched it a long time ago though.
Never seen it.
Yeah, it's definitely worth checking out just to see like how bonkers it is.
Has Bruce Campbell ever worked with Mel Brooks before? Because I feel
I don't think so.
That would be the.
I don't think so.
That would be the perfect mix.
Those
two
I just like
no, totally.
You're talking about Blazing Saddles, like
that'd
Western.
Be, that'd be totally up his alley.
Right.
He would have been a little young for Blazing Saddles, I think. Mel was basically kind of tapering down as Bruce was rising, so it's a shame they didn't work together. But it's not to go too far aside, but he does have some amazing roles even outside of the Army of Darkness series, Evil Dead series.
I mean, who could forget his riveting role as the pizza ball guy in Multiverse of Madness?
I know.
It's the best part of that movie, I think.
Yeah. No.
Now, what about him as the ringmaster in Spider-Man, or
or the concierge of the movie,
right, or the restaurateur, the host, and in Spider-Man 3. That's just Sam. Sam has always ensured that Bruce shows up somehow, even in Darkman, which was mentioned earlier. Originally, Sam Raimi wanted Bruce to play the lead role, but the studio was like, "No, you're going to take Liam Neeson." And then at the very, very end of the film, spoilers for those that haven't seen it, but Darkman's, whatever. You do see Bruce Campbell for just a minute as Darkman's disappearing into the crowd. That's like his new face.
Also, Jill Cohen's wife is in that, and Jill Cohen worked on that as well.
Oh.
Yeah. So anyway, just a little Bruce Campbell aside. So one of the things I mentioned off camera before we started the show was one of the ways they got away with not having an NC-17 rating in this, because you got women dancing around with their own heads, and you've got some pretty over the top grossness, eyeballs flying through the air. It's the fact that they were able to, because they were still using hundreds, if not thousands of gallons of blood, they were able to get away with it by making all the blood variety of colors. So there's green blood and blue blood and purple blood and black blood. Which is great. And it depended on what he was attacking, right? So
yeah.
I was like, why is it green? The body is a person. Okay, what's happening? But again, I can watch Fast and the Furious. Okay. I can keep on trucking with these movies. It's fine.
Now, we could talk continuity. Obviously, between 1 and 2, continuity gets weird because we've kind of discussed that. But even between 2 and 3, the continuity gets a little weird, because at the end of 2, as he attacks the demon, or the demon comes in and he sees the giant head, he goes gray. But in 3, he has no gray. Did you guys catch that?
That's right. His hair, he gets these gray streaks on the side.
Oh.
Yeah, and then when he's
he's an old man.
He's
getting older.
He's not gray anymore.
But it was like the shock gray that people get, that you've heard about. It was like that. But then it just disappears for the third one. Now he has it. Like that's like really what he looked like, which was cool. But
you could talk about how at the end of the second one, they were all happy he was there. They were like, praise him.
Yeah, right.
He's like, no. And they're like, praise him. And then by the time the third one came out, they were like, put him in chains. We don't praise him anymore.
Right. He's one of Henry's men, Like, what are they doing? Yeah, no.
Arthur was a dick. That's all I'm gonna say.
So there is a rumor, and I don't know if I've ever confirmed this. This would be the time to confirm it. La loves looking this stuff up. So as I say it, she'll probably look this up really fast. So apparently there's supposed to be Freddy's glove in the cabin of where he creates the chainsaw, and cuts the sawed-off shotgun behind the door is supposed to be Freddy's glove, because originally with the whole Freddy versus Jason thing, they were going to try to bring Ash in as the protagonist against the two of them. And there's actually a comic book, Ash versus, or Freddy versus Jason versus Ash. There's 2 graphic novels that actually has them all fighting, and they're very expensive and hard to find, these graphic novels, because they sold, nobody bought them, obviously. I do have a few issues to show you guys. I should have pulled them out for this episode. But that was the plan, but it's always about rights. You know, it was hard enough for them to get Freddy versus Jason, you know, on screen, and getting Ash from a totally different universe in was almost impossible, but they tried to look through these little morsels.
He time traveled.
Right. So the comics
Also,
are great
there
though, because they go really in depth to some of this stuff.
Of the glove hanging at the door when he walks through the door.
Right.
When he's like looking for the pictures in the basement. I mean, he's looking for the booklet, the book pages. There's Freddy's glove is
number 2.
Yeah.
Number 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it might be worth just grabbing that scene to see.
It's the scene where he's already downstairs and he opens the door and he steps through, and you see they have that shot of his hand clutching the papers. You can see Freddy's glove.
Like, oh man.
Right.
So a little
That
fun.
was like Deadpooling before, like,
right?
I mean, it'd be cool.
Yeah, in a sense.
We're shorthanded. We should have got that. Damn.
Yeah.
Sam.
I would have liked to have seen the hand find the glove and then attack him with Freddy's glove. That would have been pretty fantastic.
Or honestly, I wouldn't even want him to attack it, because it's such a slapstick thing. I would love for the hand to see the glove and be like you know, like
that's great.
Like a mentor type of thing. Like, you're the one.
Almost like a hand bowing or something. Like, oh yes, you know,
like good sir, like something. I would have liked that. Yeah.
We could have gone for a thing like thumbs up, maybe. I don't know. That might have been cool. You know, I like all of that. I still think the most iconic scene in the film is without a doubt when he creates puts the chainsaw in his own hand, and you know, that's classic, you know, groovy.
Her and him just went down to that basement and MacGyvered the mess out of that. I was like, listen here, I'm like, how did you finagle this? I know the brain moves when you're like under stress, under pressure. You're like, things connect, because there's been times where I've had really good TikTok ideas and I was high as a kite, so I know the brain works in mysterious ways. But I was just like, how y'all figure this out? And then I feel like
he even had that little thing on his shoulder to start it. Like, I was like, whoa, man.
I was like,
I thought that was pretty sweet. Like,
how did we connect these dots? I was like, 1 and 2 and 5. I was like, I didn't know
how did he not dull the chainsaw, making the shotgun shorter? And that's what I'd like to know.
No, what I would like to know is how in Army of Darkness. I'm about to say Army of
Darkness.
My acting thing is slipping in. I have rehearsal today, so I'm like, Darkness. I have a character where I talk very drawl. But I don't know how in Army of Darkness, like, he ain't run out of bullets.
Oh no! In fact, he had a double barrel shotgun that shot 4 or 5 times. Like, that's intentional.
Like,
that's intentional.
I was like, sir. I'm like, at this point, Ash Williams is magic. He has to be magic.
So I have a theory about that. I was waiting for that to kind of be brought up. So he is a superhero. And the reason he's a superhero is because he became a Deadite and overcame it. He was able to he got away from it. So he becomes it twice. The first time he gets thrown into water, and then the sun makes it go away. The second time he literally just has to figure out how to get away from them and become Ash again. And I think that's what makes him be able to karate chop and have unlimited ammo and become Ash.
What you're saying is Daybreakers stole their cure for vampirism from
this demon.
In a sense, yeah. Okay. Sam Raimi is cutting edge. Like, he really, you know,
he's ahead of the game.
Yeah. He's hands above everyone else.
Yeah.
That was too much.
I just felt real bad for Ash. I was just like, bro, can't catch a break. He's like, my whole thing was this too. Why you want to go home, bro? Like, you don't know what you're going home to. Like, everybody you know that is dead.
Right.
Like,
no one's going to believe your story.
No one's going to believe that you were attacked by.
Even though you do have a hand. It was
still they can lie and be like, you just did this. They can be like, you did this because you didn't want to get caught, even though that's drastic. But still, I would have just been like, you know, so you got a nice little, you got Miss Honey. You know what I'm saying? Miss Honey was there, you know, from Matilda, because that was the actress that played Miss Honey in Matilda.
That's true. She's also Little Miss from Bicentennial Man.
You know, so she is Little Miss. You got Miss Honey, you know what I mean? Like she waiting for you, curly haired up. She like, what's up? And you like, I'm gonna go home to where I might go to jail. Okay. I
You
just
got
stay.
real ugly.
How did she survive? He stabbed her in the gut with a spear and flipped her over the edge, and she came back to life. And nobody else came back to life like that. Everybody else died. How she survived? He pierced her.
He's magic. We just discussed this.
Stop it.
He's a superhero. He sort of stabbed her between her organs. Like
there was no, but I do like, I know we're going to get to the 2013 one, but I do like in the 2013 one, they elaborated more on some of the things that like, okay, let's put some rules to this. Because if you really go back to the first one, there ain't no rules. The only rule you got is to disembody them, but they added more layers in the 2013 one. And I actually like that. I was like, okay, let's add a little levity to the lore. I like having like a world building for lore as well, because a lot of people like, they'll be like, it's a prophecy, and then like forget that they had a prophecy. It's like, can we? And so in 2013 one, they kind of gave you more in the book. They gave you more in the, was it like the Necronomicon or whatever it's called, Necronomicon,
which does, of course, then give it a Lovecraftian like approach to some degree, that these creatures are somewhat related to Lovecraft in some way.
Cabin in the Woods vibes for 2013 for the 2013 one, but yeah,
I think that was post Cabin in the Woods too, so they might have been just kind of, you know. I don't know. Any Cabin in the Woods reminds me of Evil Dead at this point. So, all right. So we're going to move into Army of Darkness. But before we do that, we do have Biggie's the pre-review that we do want to get to. So we're going to go ahead and move over to the pre-review, and we will be right back.
The pre-review with BlindBiggie. The pre-review with BlindBiggie.
Hello, I'm BlindBiggie. Welcome to the pre-review. This episode is for October 24th through 30th, 2022. The pre-review is where I tell you about upcoming movies at the theater and beyond. First up, on October 26th, is The Good Nurse. This crime drama stars Jessica Chastain and Eddie Redmayne. Nurse Amy Logren is shocked when Charlie Cullen, one of her colleagues, is found responsible for the murder of dozens of patients over a period of 16 years across 2 states and 9 hospitals without being charged. Eddie Redmayne is definitely creepy AF in this trailer, and I can't wait to see this movie. The Good Nurse premieres on Netflix October 26th. Next up is All Quiet on the Western Front. This movie stars Daniel Bruhl, who you may remember from the series Falcon and Winter Soldier, and Captain America Civil War. And this also stars Felix Kammerer. When 17-year-old Paul joins the Western Front in World War I, his initial excitement is soon shattered by the grim reality of life in the trenches. This movie explores the travesties and hardships of World War I. And this is a German-speaking film, so be prepared to read some subtitles. All Quiet on the Western Front premieres on Netflix October 28th. Armageddon Time is a historical drama starring Jeremy Strong, Anne Hathaway, and Anthony Hopkins. A coming-of-age story about the strength of family and the generational pursuit of the American dream. You can see some fantastic performances in this, especially by Jalen Webb and Michael Banks. Both young men have bright futures ahead of them. This movie is written and directed by James Gray and hits theaters October 28th. Next up is Call Jane. This drama comedy is set in 1968 and stars Elizabeth Banks, Wunmi Masaku, and Sigourney Weaver. A housewife is overjoyed with the news of her pregnancy until she learns it poses a threat to her own life. She has nowhere to turn until she meets an underground group of women who risk everything to provide people like her with a choice. This movie is inspired by true events, and it looks like we're going to see great performances from everyone involved. Call Jane premieres in theaters October 28th. The Lair is an action horror movie premiering October 28th. When Royal Air Force pilot Lieutenant Kate Sinclair is shot down over Afghanistan, she finds refuge in an abandoned underground bunker where deadly man-made biological weapons, half human, half alien, are awakened. This is from Neil Marshall, the director of The Descent, so you know it's going to be creepy. This movie has some intense action horror. It's actually a little reminiscent of Aliens, and it looks dark and brutal. The Lair premieres in theaters and video on demand, October 28th. Next on Apple TV Plus is Louis Armstrong's Black and Blues. This documentary honors the musician's legacy as a founding father of jazz. The film shows how Armstrong's life spans the shift from the Civil War to the Civil Rights Movement, and how he became a lightning rod figure in that turbulent era. This documentary has old photos and footage of Louis Armstrong. This also shows how he maintained his dignity in a turbulent time, and how he had the respect of millions of fans. Louis Armstrong's Black and Blues premieres on Apple TV Plus October 28th. Also on October 28th is Run, Sweetheart, Run, and this horror thriller looks intense. After what begins as dinner with a client, a single mom finds herself hunted by a monstrous and seemingly unstoppable assailant. This movie stars Ella Balinska, Palu Asbeck, and Clark Gregg. And this is produced by Blumhouse, so you know it's going to be good. This looks like we're going to see some great over-the-top action and some brutal bloody violence. Run, Sweetheart, Run premieres on Amazon Prime Video October 28th. Also on the 28th is Pray for the Devil. This horror thriller stars Jacqueline Byers and Kristen Navarro. The Roman Catholic Church combats a global rise in demonic possessions by reopening schools to train priests to perform exorcisms. Although nuns are forbidden to perform this ritual, a professor recognizes Sister Anne's gifts and agrees to train her. Thrust into the spiritual front line, she soon finds herself in a battle for the soul of a young girl who's possessed by the same demon that tormented her own mother years earlier. The special effects in this look disturbing. It looks like we're in for some great jump scares and some grotesque imagery. Pray for the Devil premieres in movie theaters October 28th. Next up is A24's romance drama, Stars at Noon. This movie stars Margaret Qualley, Joe Alwyn, and Robert Pattinson. A young American journalist stranded in present-day Nicaragua seduces an enigmatic Englishman who seems like her best chance of escape. She soon realizes, though, that their torrid affair has only put her in more danger. This looks like it has some great romantic drama and some scenes of intense espionage. Looking forward to this one. We're going to have some great performances for sure. Stars at Noon premieres on Hulu October 28th. Last on my list is Wendell and Wild. The two devious demon brothers, Wendell and Wild, have to face their arch enemy with the help of the nun Sister Helly, who is notorious for expelling demons. However, the brothers are not only plagued by her, but also her altar boys. This movie stars Jordan Peele, Keegan-Michael Key, Tamara Smart, Lyric Ross, James Hong, Ramona Young, Ving Rhames, Sam Zalea, Angela Bassett, and many more. This movie is directed by Henry Selick, who directed Coraline and The Nightmare Before Christmas, amongst others. This movie looks visually stunning, and I just can't wait for this Halloween treat. Wendell and Wild premieres on Netflix October 28th. That wraps up the pre-review for this week. Hope to see you out there.
And we are back from the pre-review, and thank you, Biggie, for always having a great look ahead of what the movies that will be coming out over the next week, both in streaming and in theaters. And I do have, I am going to watch that Wendell and Wild here on Monday, just after it hits theaters. I got myself a pre-screening of that, so I'm very excited about that. So I'll tell you guys about that before it hits Netflix. Look for my TikTok, and always follow us all on TikTok and all the other social medias across the board, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, etc., etc. So we are halfway through the Evil Dead takeover. We are about to hit Army of Darkness, although it's impossible to talk about these movies as one individual film. And we are going to move over here and talk about Army of Darkness. So the only person in this group that hadn't seen Army of Darkness was Lala. So we're going to now get Lala's initial take on the Army of Darkness. And Bruce Campbell versus the Army of Darkness, if you will.
Yes. Okay, so my initial take was, what do they have me watching? That was my initial
You're
take.
welcome.
What do they have me watching? Like I said before, the sympathy for Ash is real heavy in this one because I'm just like, not only did you finally like you kill the thing, then you get sucked into a portal to the medieval times. They think you're a spy or on another person's
Yeah.
team, like
Mhm.
right after you killed the things that probably has been killing them, and it's just so much. But it was just sometimes the writing in these films are so funny to me, and like dialogue is so funny to me. Because when he grabs that girl and he goes, "Give me some sugar, baby."
Give me some sugar, baby.
That is
Mhm.
that is
See,
so
that's the Ash that we all
hilarious.
know.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
That is
that's
so funny to me. But see,
yeah.
I'm happy that I was able to watch it as a progression. Like I saw where it started,
Yeah.
where it's
Yeah.
going. So like it kind of really feels like a Doctor Who type of character because he like it's like he starts off one way and
see
then
that.
he just keeps morphing into this the
Yeah.
same person, but he ain't. You know what I mean? And like that's very Doctor Who. Like you're the same person, but it ain't the same person. And so like every movie for me, Ash was regenerated into like a different version of himself. And so like by the time you get to Army of Darkness, he's so fed up with what he's been put through, because honestly it's like a John Wick film too. I'm just calling out all stuff, all pop culture. It's kind of like John Wick, because John Wick all takes place within a matter of like weeks or months, something like that. So like they're all back to back to back. Like so John does
Oh,
not get
yeah.
the time to
Mhm.
breathe. Ash does not get the time to breathe. Anytime
No,
he
totally.
gets the time to breathe, something yanks him this way, that way. And this film just adds even more onto it, because not only do he got to worry about the Deadites, but then because he could remember the 3 little words that he had to remember, now he got to deal with the Army of Darkness.
Braga,
And then it's like he
Nikto.
had such. But here's the thing: I love that part of the movie because he's a bit of a dick to these people when he shows up. And I'm not saying that he's not right to be, but he's kind of still not right to, like, he's right to be, but he's not right to be.
Right.
So like you did this to yourself. The dude was trying to get you to repeat it more and more so you can remember, and
He's
you're
like,
like,
I
oh,
got
yeah,
your damn words.
Yeah.
then you're like, oh yeah, the words, and you're like,
Well, that's just that arrogance that we know about him.
Right.
And
whatever,
he
and
thinks
you're
these
like,
people are like primates. Can
All the
right?
words.
He's like,
so many words he uses, like
he's like,
yeah.
nickel. It's an N word. He just couldn't figure it out. So like his own like hubris kind of like led him down this path, like of him. But it's like this is a person y'all putting y'all hopes and dreams on, and he's like an oaf. He's like an oaf. He's like stumbling his way through this thing. He does not know. I really feel like it's not until we see like older Ash, even though I'm sure he's still comical. I'm sure he's still like goofy, but I feel like he's still like he probably is in more control. Like he kind of knows a little. Nope, Snitty didn't know. So,
Hasn't learned.
No, it's worse.
so to me, so like that's crazy to me to not
That
have
is good.
that type of progression with the character, because I mean, if you look at Kung Fu Panda, he been goofy and kind of slow. He's been all 3 movies. The bro don't like stairs, but his fighting improves. All 3 movies, he don't like stairs, but his fighting improves. I kind of want that for Ash.
Ash is the exact opposite. He starts out extremely serious, less serious, even less serious, and in the series, he is far gone. Like,
oh no,
it's ridiculous, but it's fantastic. It's great.
I'm still gonna partake because I'm in this world now. I blame you all for this. You too, Tyler. You're in this too. I blame you all for this. And so I'm gonna watch the rest of the things, but I thought Army of Darkness, honestly, out of the first 2 films, was a better film because you could tell it's a better production. It's more, it's they got a little more budget.
Oh yeah, like
yeah, you can
hands
just
down,
that scene,
like,
just that first scene with the coming out of the well. I was like, oh, they got a nice little budget on this film. That's a lot of fake blood that y'all put out of this thing. And in this one,
just man.
Sam Raimi has a thing
So
with
good.
his makeup effects, like when he has like his deadites when they turn, or like when they start to turning, everybody looks like they're being punctured, like there's like puncture holes like very like everywhere. This, even in this film, it was like better. It was like more, it was better done. Like you could tell that it was like like the latex was like a little thinner, which worked better on people's faces.
Yeah.
You could just tell a little bit more work went into it. You could just tell like there were more people on set. You could just tell
Yeah,
there were more people on set.
It was a much bigger production.
Yeah, much
hands
bigger
down.
production.
I mean,
And you can see it, and you can just see it, like you can see it in lighting. Because if you go back to the first one, when Ash was in the basement looking for Scotty, I was like, oh, they just put a light behind that box.
oh man, I know. I was thinking about that. All that stuff too was like when they're in the car, you cannot see any of the background. Like there's just black, and it's just like
and it's
normally
like,
there'd be something there to like kind of like cut, you know, so you can show some depth that they're outside and everything, you know, even though it's like a fake moonlight or whatever. It's still
they had the Game of Thrones DP for the first.
But you can just see the difference, like because like in the first one it was very dark. It wasn't a lot of light. It was like light in
even
places
that lantern
where you're
you
like,
had, I was like,
yes,
come on, just fake that lantern up, guys. Like, man, like make that
like,
light,
make it
lantern
give
light.
it like a better shadow, a better. And then I was just like, so like you could see like from the first one to the third one that like lighting is different, because like even in the first one you could tell like certain scenes would happen and it'll be like bright and they would have to turn, it'll be dark and you're like, that lighting doesn't match. So like, in this one it was like things fit, you know what I mean? So it felt more cinematic. It felt more cinematic. It didn't feel as like backyard recording as like the first as like the first two kind of did. So I could get into this one a little bit more. I felt like I understand why this was some people's first go into like Army of Darkness, because it felt like something that I would have grown up on, even though I didn't, even though it came out in a time where I could, because I've watched other movies that came out in like 92 and stuff like that, but like I didn't, this just like I just didn't see this one, but like this felt like, oh yeah, this is my time, this this belongs, this is home, you know, this felt like home. And then when you get to the 2013 one, you're like, okay, you guys tried some stuff. Okay.
Right.
Brian, what's your initial take?
One of the things about this one was that because Universal didn't they weren't just a distributor on it, they actually like financed this one, which was a big difference. So they had like a lot of like that Universal money, you know, to go through, and
Universal money,
which is crazy. Like I mentioned earlier, you can see like if you watch Evil Dead 2 and that at the very end of Evil Dead 2 to this one, you're like, the armor is completely different just on the on the knights and everything.
It actually has like sigils and various things engraved into it, right?
There's a lot more detail work, you know. It didn't look like they bought it, you know, at like
the second one, it looks like they raided a museum and just took what they could get their hands on.
It was pretty bad. Yeah. I mean, they still try.
So when did you see this the first time, Brian?
Oh man, like I saw it in the 90s. So I was probably in high school when I saw this. You know, this came out in 92. So it was probably like a few years after it came out. I remember seeing it in the 90s, but then I've seen it like multiple times. It was just, I immediately loved this movie, you know. But like had no recollection or like no idea the other Evil Dead films existed until years after I'd seen this one.
Thanks, Universal.
Yeah, and like I was already familiar with Bruce Campbell because of Briscoe County Jr. and everything, and so I think I actually watched Briscoe County Jr. before I even saw this, so it might have been how I got into Army of Darkness. But yeah, I just love everything about this movie. It's even just rewatching it because it's been a while since I've seen it, so I rewatched. I got the 4K Steelbook, you know,
which is beautiful.
Awesome. It's like the artwork on it's so great, and and it's still, now I'm surprised how short this one was. It was like an hour and 20 something minutes,
like 26, I think it was.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, super quick, and it's like efficient. Like they're just going through it, like they're not wasting any time, and I love it. I mean, there's even kind of like a little cabin scene too when he goes to the windmill, like that whole thing. That's essentially like a cabin that he goes to where all that crazy stuff, where the little mini versions of him pop out,
or the eyeball.
Yeah,
the eyeball scene is so creepy.
Yeah, and like grows this other version of him, and I just really, this thing is just a blast. Just the like over the top camera work, you know, like the flips for no reason. There's like there's like multiple flips and just for no reason, and the camera's like moving with them as they're flipping, like just over the top, and like it just fits too. You're just like,
this is the film where he picked up a lot of karate skills and then he taught the other people how to fight. And I thought that was hilarious. I was like, not him teaching them how to fight with a spear.
Like
this is not your time.
And the car, they turned that car to like this medieval tank, you know, with the giant windmill on the front and everything. Yeah, like the cool camera work with that too, with like just him shifting a gear. It's just
there was some really good transition scenes too. There was some really good transition scenes too, where he like where like the guy picked up the chainsaw and then he like turned it, and when it reflected into the light, it transitioned to the sun, and I was like, okay, Sam, we're working on transition.
I know, man. Like, he got better. And the whole like too, like when he like slow motion like jumps up to meet the chainsaw, right? His, like,
well, we lost Lala.
Oh no.
She'll be back. I think it's just a connection issue. Tyler, your initial take, or when did you see it first, and what was your impression, or what was your impression this time around?
The first time I watched it was in high school, so we just watched it in film class. I don't remember a whole lot of it. And then
that's awesome.
Another time in Colorado, and then I watched it here for the third time.
Nice.
And
all right,
it's even more awesome. I like to call it "How Did We Get Here?" the movie. I just don't know what's happening. Like as the movie went on, I'm like, what is even happening at this point? But I realized like him having a budget, there's a lot of like things that he was like, maybe he saw Star Wars, right? He saw the trash compactor pin. He's like, I could do that better. Let me do my Evil Dead.
There was no spikes in there. What are they doing wrong?
Yeah, I'm gonna put some spikes in there.
The windmill car. He's like, Mad Max. I'll do Evil Dead Mad Max.
It was its old Mad Max car.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And like, it just didn't. Nothing needed to make sense for me. And even if he started questioning anything, they're on to the like exactly what you were saying, Brian. Like it would just move on. And it's just like I don't have any time to make sense. Like.
Yeah, it didn't care. It didn't care. I do like that this movie has like that kind of like the last layer of the Harryhausen style look, you know, that Jason and the Argonauts feel when he's fighting some of the skeletons, or when the like gargoyle-y things coming down, where it just like harkens back to old style filmmaking, which fits Sam Raimi perfectly because that's where he got all of his inspiration. But this movie is beyond ridiculous. Like there's the whole point is it's ridiculous. And if you walked into this movie expecting a serious movie, you'd be sorely disappointed. Yeah. If you were an Evil Dead fan and never saw Evil Dead 2 and then this came out, you'd be like, what?
Oh my God.
Did they
totally.
do?
Yeah. Even the jump between, like I was talking to my girlfriend about this too. I was like, it really is like, it doesn't feel like a horror film to me. Like it's like an action adventure comedy, you know, with some like horror elements, you know what I mean?
It has some horror tropes, but not a ton of them.
But no, you're so right. Like if you skipped Evil Dead 2, you'd be like, how is this even connected?
You'd walk out, you'd be like, this is crap, right? Especially if you loved the first one, you would hate this.
Yeah.
So that's what I thought. I heard that the Army of Darkness was super divisive at the time. Like, was it or were people like down for it, like automatically?
Interesting. See, I've always just heard that Army of Darkness was everybody's favorite, and that the other two were acquired taste. And I think that they've aged the right way. I don't know.
The few people that I told that I was watching, because people always ask me like, so what are you watching for your podcast? What are you watching? And I'm like, oh, we're watching the 4 Evil Dead films, and they're like, oh man, Army of Darkness. The first thing I hear, oh man, Army of Darkness, and I was just like, I'll get there. And I had somebody ask me, they were like, when you watch Army of Darkness, just message me like what you think the key phrases, like the key, like, you know, his catchphrases are. And so like I messaged him and I was like, give me some sugar, baby. He was like, that's it. Then he started doing some other ones from the movie, and I thought it was like funny. So I was like, yep, that's your favorite. I think people are like, I think because they lean even more into like the comedy and the slapstickiness, I think that's why this is a lot of people's favorite. Because like, I'm sorry, the things that he's been doing throughout these movies, especially starting with the second one, when he took the necklace and he used it to grab the book, I was like, what are we doing? I was like, that
I know, me too. I was like,
that's not gonna work. I guess that's what we're gonna do. I said that's fine. So I'm like, whatever. I'm like, we're gonna move past that. And then we get to the third one and he uses his belt to wrap around. I don't know how that belt
Yeah.
stayed.
Yep. Oh yeah.
I was like, he's
His
like an
Bob
Indiana
wraps.
Jones, but a goof, but a bigger goof because Indiana Jones is still a goof, but just a bigger goof. He just did so many things in his film, like when he was fighting like the head dead army guy, like the dead general guy, and he was like, yes,
Yeah.
and he was like fighting him, and he did this weird flip in the air. That he came
when
back
he did the
down,
two
and
swords thing, and then he flipped over.
Yes, and I was just like, I was like, where did these? I was like, sir, you work at S Smart. Like, what are we doing? Like, what do you?
I know.
What is your extracurricular activity?
Yeah, and not even in like the loading bay. He works in housewares. Like he doesn't.
No,
even,
literally.
You know,
So like, what are we doing, sir? But this one kind of ramped up the funny and the slapstickiness and just the. He's so mean. Like there's this trope in the 90s. Well, actually, forever, and it's getting kind of better. But like this is trope in the 90s of men being mean and then women being like, oh yeah, but you don't want like I don't understand.
I know.
And then they're like mean, and then they're like, give me some sugar, baby.
Like,
and
it was so
like,
I think Raimi wanted to see the front of a romance novel right then. Like that's what that looked like to me. Like that was him making fun of them. Even
it looked like a Danielle Steele
hair
cover.
blowing. Exactly. Exactly.
It did. But did we see the editing issue at the end where one, she shouldn't have died. Continuity, she should have died. There's no way that she survived a spear to the gut. But when he picks, but like when she's on the ground, her hair is like very like puffy and like, you know, curly. And then when he picks her up, her hair is wet. It's like somebody spritzed her, and she was just like, oh, she was turned like, oh my god. Like I was just like, okay. All right.
So speaking of the Deadite captain, the evil Ash that turns into the monster that fights him, I don't know if you guys know, but that's actually Bill Moseley, who's been in most of the Rob Zombie films. He actually plays the lead in both Devil's Rejects and House of a Thousand Corpses. And so he kind of got his start early on with Sam as well.
Sam out here just lifting everybody's careers up. All right, Sam.
Yeah.
Where you at, Sam? Lift mine up. Come on, Sam.
What's my turn?
You gotta find your own Sam.
No, facts.
You know, an upcoming Sam.
I found you, Brian.
I was gonna say, there's a guy right here. There's a guy right over there.
Come on.
When those guys make it, maybe they'll throw us in their movie for fun. Yeah. We'll see.
Throw me a bone, guys.
Throw me a bone.
I'll be like Ted Raimi in Army of Darkness. He's like, you can have my
well, he's also at the end as well. He plays at the very end. He plays the other
honestly
guy.
I don't care what nobody says. Ted Raimi, he has not aged as
it doesn't seem like he's aged. Yeah, I know. No, totally.
He looks the same, but you can tell he's older. But he was so cute in like the 90s. Like, oh my god, like that nerdy look, like the glasses, and just like he was so cute. So when he was talking to him at the thing, I was like, look at Joxer, just so handsome. I'm like, why could I was like, Gabrielle, she's shady. She should have went for him, man. Sorry.
No, it's you're nerding out. It's okay, and
I love him. He's so cute. I would love to meet him. I would actually Ted Raimi, Sam Raimi, Sean Gunn,
James Gunn.
Gunn.
Well, I met Sean Gunn. I took a picture with Sean Gunn.
Nice.
Met Sean Gunn. But you know, I would love to meet them. Like the Coens, I would love to meet them. Like I would love to meet with the Wachowskis. I just want to pick everybody's brain. I think it's so cool when you can do something with family like that, because I don't have anybody in my family that likes that stuff. So like when I see like siblings making movies or writing things together, or like they create something and they put their, like Sean Gunn being everything that my man does, you know what I mean? Like he's in everything.
He's
and
the
like,
modern day Ted Raimi, like, you know, in so
he's
many
the
ways.
modern day, like literally he's a modern day Ted Raimi, because like who else could you get to play the stand-in for Rocket?
Well, and he walks around on his like.
He walks around like yes.
You know, I love it.
Like it's just, I you know, because like I said, I don't have family that likes what I like, so like I love seeing like siblings do things. I love seeing family do things. So
well, I'm sure Ted on this movie was like, I'm not getting in a suit, dude. You can put a wig on me. You can put me in a jacket. That's fine.
We could do everything but this suit. And it makes you realize how much the technology has grown, because even during like Marvel's time, like they switched up how Robert Downey Jr. is in his suit many times, to the point where like bro just had like shoulder pads on, and they just CGI the rest of it. You know, to the point where, and like what was that? Scarlett and Tom Holland, they both had to have like air pumped through theirs because their suits are so tight. It was hard to take them off, so they had to like get air pumped in to keep their body at a cool temperature. So like, hey man, if I was Ted Raimi, you could fire me, bro. I'm not, or I'm telling mom, like, which one you want?
Telling mom,
give me a different role. I'm telling mom, man.
That's great.
Meanwhile, Bruce Campbell's pouring like scalding hot water down his throat.
That scene,
God. Tyler.
That is amazing.
Scene,
I love when he sticks his face on the flat top, right? And he's like, they even stop and they show, like, he even turns the freaking, like, and they like show it to you like cartoon style, and then digs his face off, and of course he's fine, as to Lala's rule.
That's the thing too.
Just
It's like
as
it's one big
gorgeous as he
cartoon,
was before,
you know?
Right?
Okay, that
if not more,
right?
If not more, it may because he's dirty, and I love a dirty man. So like even him being dirty, I was just like Aragorn all over again. I was like, oh my god. So, but no, that movie, that it's, oh my gosh, it's so much.
He said you like hot chocolate, and it's like, what are you saying?
And it kills the thing, or at least it fakes it for a second. I'm like, but that didn't hurt him. Again, more proof that he's magic or a superhero at this point. He can't get hurt in it at this point. So
he can't, no, but he feels pain. That's the worst.
That's true.
The worst. I don't want none of that. If I gotta feel pain,
right?
The worst.
No, yeah, there's really no way to. Basically, this is a movie that we can talk about how fun and silly it is, and we can do the one-liners, but to really dissect it as a film is difficult because it's so wildly ridiculous.
Well, the thing was too is like Universal was totally on board for it, like a huge, production company like Universal, been around for over 100 years. They saw something in it too, like they were like.
It was different.
Like, no, we love this.
If I'm being totally honest, watching it, I was like, I see where a lot of these tropes come from. I see where a lot of I feel like he started some stuff. I feel like he maybe picked from maybe something that kind of started, but he kind of like made it a thing and made people kind of like pick it up. But I can see why Universal would be interested in this. It's so different to see a horror comedy. You kind of don't even see that. Like for me, I didn't see that until Freddy Krueger. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
For
I've
me,
always thought he was funny too.
Like he was hilarious, and then he just got more and more ridiculous as his films kept coming out. But like to me, go back to the original, he was funny to me. I thought it was, maybe I'm sadistic, but he was funny.
I always thought that too.
He was funny to me. So like, I just think Universal was like
the long arms. Yeah, the long arms.
Yes, I just think Universal just was like, this is different. This could be something, and I'm happy they did because
Bruce and Sam had to walk so that Tucker and Dale could run, right? Like that's.
Oh, you know what? You know what, Snitty? Sometimes I don't like you because you say stuff like that.
Tucker and Dale is amazing. That's
it is. Tucker and Dale is a solid. You know what? A lot of people on YouTube are reacting to that movie.
Really?
Yeah, that's and I thought that was funny because I was like, the real study did it first. But yeah,
so
it's like suddenly a thing.
It was weird. We were talking about In the Mouth of Madness at the first of this month, and then all of a sudden I'm seeing it all over everywhere. And I was like, weird that it's everywhere now. No, I don't think it's because of us, but there's still that, you think that in your mind. Okay, it is. We're going to run with it. It is.
Thank you.
So
thank you. Give us credit. Give us credit.
We get the credit. We get the credit. Speaking of credit, there's somebody that I never shout out on this show that I probably should shout out more, and that is Aina, who, if you're not following her on everything, she makes this show happen in so many ways. She makes some great clips, and she puts the show up on the podcast so that you guys can listen to it. She's working behind the scenes all the time, and you never get to see the hard work that she does other than here it is. So anyway, that and BlindBiggie, who does our pre-review and always has a lot of input and is always active with all of us. Anyway, I just wanted to give them a shout out. Keys as well, who does deserve as much of a shout out because he's our voice guy. Speaking of which, he made all these great voices, and I finally got them all connected so that they actually can show up. And there's one that he did that is directly related to this movie, and you guys won't hear it, but the audience will.
Glatu, Barada, Nikto.
I know it's terrible, but you can, catch it on the playback or whatever. But he did a Klaatu Barada necktie, one, but it's the real one. So, and you're welcome, Hannah. You're absolutely welcome. So we have about 30 minutes left, so we have one more movie to cover, and this is the most serious, I think, of the four films. And this is Fede Alvarez's directorial debut. Sam Raimi and Bruce and Robert found Fede from a YouTube short that he had done that was very successful, and pulled him over to do this movie, and basically gave him the reins and they went nuts with it and remade the original in a spirit of what basically would have been what Sam and Bruce and the guys would have wanted the original to be, the kind of gritty, raw nature. And this movie has mixed reviews. Some people love it and some people hate it, and I don't think there's really much of anybody in between. It's either perfect or terrible. So why don't I give my take? I haven't done that yet. I'll give my initial take. So my wife Batsy and I went and saw this in the theater. We actually got to see Bruce Campbell for this at Comic-Con. He was doing the tour during that year. And so we went to see him at Comic-Con to talk about and promote this film. And we got our picture taken with him and everything, that's us right there with him. Anyway, and it was great. It was exactly what I wanted it to be, because I didn't have any expectations other than this better be as raw and real as it can be. But it still lends itself to some of the tropes. Tyler and I were talking about this a little bit before the show. There are some fantastic, even Evil Dead 2 style tropes in there where they're using duct tape in situations they shouldn't be using it in. And it was a lot. Not everybody that we talked to afterward liked it, but I thought it was the right amount of gore for this film. So, Brian, go ahead. What was your initial take on this one?
Man, so I saw this one recently, not too long ago, probably within maybe a few months ago, and for the first time. And it was one of those things where you kind of walking into it knowing the mixed feelings about it. So I was kind of trying to walk into it, pretty open-minded. And what's funny is I hadn't seen, the first two actual Evil Dead films. So just having Army of Darkness in there, but also knowing Sam Raimi's style and camera work, so I went into it pretty blind. And I loved it. I loved that it was a pretty serious take. I loved the brutal some stuff. When she rips her own hand off, oh man, that was tough. Wow. And she was incredible in it too. Also, I love the fact that they're trying to work in her addiction into this film, and that there was this element of these friends trying to come together to be with her, and when she's starting to turn, there's this whole they're just thinking
it's her detoxing.
Exactly. She's man,
it's
oh my
but
God,
look at her
really
eyes, bruh.
Yeah, I know. What was she using before?
Literally.
But yeah, I really liked it. I loved the little homages to Sam Raimi's stuff. It was really great. It wasn't over the top. It was just enough, just a little nod. That was great. Yeah, really loved it.
Tyler.
Yeah, it's crazy how somehow that movie manages to respect the other. They honor it pretty well, I think, even if people felt divided about it. I thought it was
totally good. Yeah.
I enjoyed that it was different from the other ones. I don't know if I would have liked to see a modern day camp version, because I don't know if they would have pulled it off quite the same. But I love that it was hardcore. That homage, there had to be a lot of blood, and I always think of that final scene when there's raining blood, and it's just a ton of it. I was I don't know, I didn't look it up, but I'm assuming it's a mix of CGI and stuff. But it also looked like they were on.
It's
set,
not CGI.
right? Is it real?
Yeah,
I'll get into some of that, but this movie has some pretty cool things about it because they avoided most CGI. But yeah. Anything else that you remember initially, Tyler?
So I'm not a super fan of the white girl is her problem is drugs. She can't. That's her only thing, right? What else can she really be
that's so true.
But that's for me. But I would say like Hellraiser didn't do it as well for me. The new one, this movie, like it because it's like shorter too. Because this movie's only like less than an hour and a half. Too.
Yeah,
it like
gets
an
hour
going,
36, something like that. Yeah.
It gets going pretty quickly. And like you said, like you could tell it was almost kind of like funny at some points, and like how can you not tell that there's something clearly like it's not drugs?
Yeah. Like, come on,
like the amount of blood coming out of her mouth might have been
I was happy when her friend died. No offense, she was only girl of color, but I was like, kill her because she mad arrogant right now. It's like, okay, we get it. You done been through this with me a couple times, but that don't mean you understand. And you just like, it's like the hubris of a doctor. Like, girl, if you don't stop the press, like, I was just like, when she died, I was like, it was time for her to go.
I mean, she got it though. She got thrown up on.
No, she did. She did.
I was like, what's happening?
Yeah.
So, Law, you watched 3 campy movies, and then you watched this.
Yeah, and to me, this still felt kind of campy, even though it had like a lot of like, it's because it was just like the gratuitous nature of like all the blood and stuff like that. That felt very campy to me. I was like, well, this ain't realistic, but you know, we're gonna keep going. But I do like, you know, kind of pretty much just mimicking what Brian and Tyler said. Like, I did like the fact that it was kind of like a little bit more grounded. It kind of came from like a more of like the fact that it's centered around Jane Levy. To me, is a great actress, so I was excited to see her in this film, to see what she would do. I think she's an actress that really doesn't get enough credit. And
agreed.
Like she's had 2 TV shows that she starred in that had like they were great shows that just got canceled before their time.
Suburgatory is brilliant.
Suburgatory is amazing.
Love that show.
Well, and like talk about the range too, and then she does like this show that's like basically a musical. You know, like,
you know what I mean? Like,
so crazy. Yeah,
it's like, come on.
And she was on Shameless season 1, and they replaced her, which I thought was interesting.
And they replaced her, but I didn't think. But no, because I think she got Suburgatory around that time. Like,
I also think that she didn't want to become the character that character becomes, which is much more aggressive.
It is, and I don't blame her for that. Like, let's just move on. You know, she's very like, if Zooey Deschanel had a little sister, like that's what she is. But like, I loved her in this. I honestly thought, I don't know how I felt about the brother sister angle. I just didn't feel it. In the audition, I was like, y'all should just make the boyfriend and girlfriend. Like, maybe that was because this is what I thought it was. I thought that he was somebody that wasn't around the friends for a long time, and then like he came back with a girlfriend, and then like his ex was there too because she still friends with them. Like, I thought that's what that was. And they were like, and he said something like, well, you're my sister. And I was like, what? Okay. If that's
he also made a weird comment too. He was like, yeah, you look beautiful or something. And I was like, what?
Yeah, he was, and she was like, he's like, oh, you're always beautiful. And then she's like, oh, you're always, I was just like, me and my brother don't talk to each other like that. But okay, cool. Cool.
Yeah, I wonder if that's
ugly, but
that was just to give them history, maybe. With each other, just
like a little background.
He hasn't dealt with it for a long time with her.
But I just didn't feel the brother.
No, totally, yeah. Like, there's definitely some elements there where you're just like,
I was just like,
are you brother and sister?
Why couldn't you just be a friend you grew up with and we just have a close bond or something? I don't know. It was just like kind of weird. But I do like that they really tried to get into like more of a story with the Necronomicon or whatever the book is. Like, I love that they got, like, we saw pages, like and they were like kind of translated now in a way. They actually look like Harley Quinn like musings, honestly. Like how there's like pictures and then it's like drawings over it, like don't like that, like in like red and everything. It looks very Harley Quinn-ish. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that they really tried to go in on the horror. I enjoyed that they took a lot of the aspects of the first film and then modernized it to kind of like give you like that feel. But for me, because it was so related to the first one, I was just like, I'm excited to see where it goes, because I knew it was going to happen, except I thought Ash would be more in it. I didn't know he wasn't in it because I didn't look it up. I didn't look up like who was in it and what this stuff was. I was just like, let me just see, like, so the fact that I didn't see him in it, I was just like, and he comes in now. No, okay. Somebody died, and nope. All right, like I kept waiting for him to come in and be like, "This is what you got to do." Like, I wanted him to be like that mentor.
Or he's like making an S-Mart delivery.
The brother is wearing Ash's blue shirt, if you notice, which is like they already had that going.
But they did a couple of red herrings. Like, you have the brother in the shirt, and then everybody starts dying, and he starts to survive. And I'm like, okay, so he's the Ash,
right?
And then the girl cut her own hand off because the girl was like, "Don't do it," and she cut her own hand. I was like, "No, no, okay." I was like, "Okay, switch it up." I was like, "She's the Ash," and they was like, "Nah, baby girl, we gonna bury this chick, bring her back. She the Ash,
right?" But she'll have the same superpowers because she's been
Yeah.
buried and came back to life.
She's been
And
buried,
right,
came
right.
back to life. So like she lost her hand on kind of, and then she jammed it into the thing.
I love
and
that.
pulled it.
That's so
And
great.
I was just like, it's just so funny that like these demons, however many it is, they're so annoying that these like quiet characters become so annoyed that they're like, "I'm about to murder
I'm just
all
gonna,
of
like,
y'all." That's essentially what her and Ash became, because she was just like, "I'm tired of this shit." She just ripped her arm off.
Mhm.
And then
Still
at
had
the
to
end,
scream
when it
for a
stopped
minute though.
raining,
Oh my god, yeah.
but I love that though, because it's real. Like she
I mean,
just
yeah,
ripped her
that was
hand off.
pretty
Like I
brutal.
love that. But my favorite part was that she was just like, it rained blood. She killed the girl, like she sliced her up. It was so long. That scene was long. I was like, all right, wrap it up, slice her in half, wrap it up, please. And then when it stopped raining and she's like looking around, she just puts her stub under her arm like this, and just stands there. I would have passed out.
She should have passed out.
You
She
probably
I would
should've
have
passed
passed out.
Yeah,
Like
just
you,
from shock. Like, yeah.
like, because what I thought she was gonna do would have been like something like a badass moment. I thought she was gonna go to the fire and put her stub in the fire, and like cauterize it. Because I'm like, you're already there.
No, she was just holding it with her armpit. Like
she was just holding her armpit, you know. So she must be like, superstar. Like she's about to hit it up.
Wow.
But
I did not expect that.
But I thought this was good. I thought it was really good. I honestly, if they have another one coming out in 2023 called Evil Dead Rises.
Yeah.
But I personally, because it's not a continuation, I don't think they said it's not a continuation. Everybody's behind it, but it's not a continuation. It's just like another chapter in this like storytelling. But I would have really liked if like her and Ash had met up somewhere
in a sequel. Because this would have been her origin story. We have his origin stories. I'm with you.
Right.
We
and they
all
would have came
want that.
together.
That would have been pretty sweet.
And then like let me add some like Seventh Heaven drama to it. Maybe let me add some Seventh Heaven drama to it. Maybe it's a child of his that he didn't know he had.
All right.
Because at this point, Ash is going around the world just like killing stuff and protecting people and all this kind of stuff. Maybe it's a kid he didn't know he had. Like maybe you could have dropped them seeds in this movie, and then when they had the trilogy, they met up. It would have been like it would have been on some Coco type stuff where you ain't know that was your grandfather. You feel me? Like you didn't know that was your daddy. I'm just saying.
So let's go to the special effects for just a minute. So even in the beginning, which I think they did a good job of turning it on its head too, because you think these weird, country people are stealing this girl out of the woods, and it turns out that she's the Evil Dead. That
they
scene,
played that real well.
They did. All the fire on her was actual fire that they filmed and then CGI'd onto her, so it's actually real flames. And a lot of the movie has a lot of that. The rain at the end, as that Tyler brought up, or that even Lala brought up, is all real blood, and they use 70,000 gallons of that blood in order to film those scenes. Yeah, so like they're out there with the hose, spraying down the whole set with this blood, and so that the pooling of it all over the place was legitimate pooling. And so they used practical effects, but they can do them so much better than they could in 81. Exactly. And I think that's why Raimi was excited, to just do this and say, okay, let's try this again, but get the hose out of the scene this time.
I'm sure in a lot of ways it was like his vision too, where he was seeing, but he was letting Fetty kind of just like, hey, go for it. You know what I mean? And plus I just love that whole story of like Fetty Alvarez was kind of doing his thing like Sam was many years and years ago. He was just trying to do his thing, and Sam's able to like, okay, we see something in this kid. This is what I was doing, except for now with the advent of YouTube and the democratization of filmmaking, let's like lift this guy up, you know what I mean? And yeah, and they made it incredible.
And then we eventually got Don't Breathe.
Yeah.
Don't Breathe
which is a strange film. Jane, of course, comes back for that film.
And Don't Breathe too. You feel me? It's not fun. No.
Which is not Fetty Alvarez, but that's
not,
okay.
Yeah, no.
Don't Breathe is a prequel to the new Evil Dead, I think.
That's a weird film. And for a whole nother night. It's good. It's good, but it's a very strange one.
Don't Breathe too.
Lily Collins was supposed to play Mia in this film.
Really?
Yeah, but then she dropped out, and then Jane Levy replaced her.
Oh.
So yeah.
So anybody who's ever played the lead in an Evil Dead film has said straight up that it's unlike anything else they've ever filmed because they put you through the ringer. And Bruce kind of insisted in some ways that Jane get put through the same ringer that he was put through. So, you know, it makes sense that she was just doused with blood. But she even started to have some of those same attributes once she came back from the dead, where she like saw the gasoline and was able to just, you know, knock it down into her hands and like get on it. And she was great with a chainsaw, you know, even though she may have never had one being a city girl. Oh,
also Diablo Cody helped write this because the two guys writing it are English isn't their first language. They brought her in to kind of like doctor it to help them translate stuff into like English translations. So yeah,
I like it.
Sweet.
Fun facts. I'm the Mr. Marvelite. Fun fact. Let me tell you.
So I do like that it is likely a sequel instead of a reboot because it takes place now, or I guess in 2013. You can tell other people have screwed around with the book. Right. You can tell the book has been written in by other people since it's been around. It can't be burned, so it's obviously still around. And it's definitely, I don't know. Like I said, I love that they tape the guy up with duct tape. I said that already, but I laughed so hard during that. I'm like, oh, that is totally an homage to Evil Dead 2.
The moment he took that out, I was like, you shouldn't have did that. You should have left it in and then put tape around it to stabilize it, because he probably could have moved better than losing all that blood he was losing.
Can we all agree that Eric is just a total dick and an asshole? Like, what a total turd. He's a dick from the moment we see him. He doesn't heed the warnings of this book. He plays the absolute most arrogant white character you can possibly play.
Yes.
Because he's like, I'm a white guy, I can read this and it's not going to have any problems. Like, it just felt that way. You know?
It's wrapped in plastic, black plastic, so you can't see through it, for one.
Right.
Then it's wrapped in barbed wire.
Surrounded by dead cats.
And you surrounded by dead cats, which somebody was obviously trying to make it so you did not even want to walk in here.
But they just cleaned it up, you know, like it was no big deal.
But you were just like, I got to know. And just like couldn't
and then on top of that, he does a thing where he's like, you don't understand, we have to kill. I'm like, dude, this whole thing is your fault.
Right.
What are you talking about?
His whole entire fault, because the book literally told him, don't read these words out loud. Also,
don't even write them down.
Don't even write them down.
Right.
And he went and MacGyvered it with a pencil. And I'm just like, bruh. And then it's like, okay, even if you wanted to do that, why would you say it out loud? The book literally just told you not to say it out loud.
Wouldn't you flip through the whole thing? Wouldn't you flip through the whole thing before you?
Yeah, you'd like peruse the book first.
He's a definition of people who walk up to
your hands are all cut up.
Walk up to a restaurant and you see all the signs and stuff, and they walk in, they ask all the questions that the signs just told you about.
Oh my god, those are I can't stand those people. I used to deal with those people all the time. But he was just oh my god, he was too much for me. He was too, I was just like, kill him.
But he gets his just due, like the fact that he gets the nails in the arm and he gets stabbed in the eye with a freaking needle.
Honestly,
you know, that was messed up. Yeah,
I was cracking up. It was sad though. The saddest part, well, not the saddest, but one of the saddest parts was like at the end when he was just like, oh hey, I missed you, man. I was like, oh my gosh. He was like, you know, right, buddy? And he was just like, he just died, and he just gently laid him into the water. I was like, what are we doing? This is a Viking burial. Like, what are you doing? Just set him on fire
set
now.
Him on fire, exactly. Yeah.
Or like, if he was your friend, why'd you put him in the basement like that? Like, what did you take him out or something?
No, literally, like, bury him. Because my thing was this: with the power of this magic of this movie, couldn't he have just buried him? And he would have came back to life, because the girl got stabbed in Army of Darkness and just came back to life after everything was done. I was just like, all right. Whatever.
No, I think the part when his girlfriend climbs into his lap saying, why does my face hurt? And she's got nails stick. That part got to me. I was like, this poor girl. She's just coming along for the weekend to a cabin in the, you know, hey, you want to go with with me to help my sister get over drugs? You know, sure. Now I'm cutting my arm off and dying from nails
honestly,
in the face.
I always feel bad for secondary characters like that, because it's like, I just came for a time. I ain't come to die. I'm not
just trying to be a good person and
just trying to be a good person, support my boyfriend with his sister. And
what if she had said no?
Hand and dying.
They would only had 4 characters. We would have never gotten the spirit at the end. Yep, she had to die. Sorry, it just had to happen.
No. She was
totally, but-
cannon fodder, man. She was set up to die. It's fine.
That's
She was
true.
Cannon fodder.
That's true.
But she died good though. That was a good death to me.
I mean,
Just like the demon letting her go just for her to be like, to me, because that's more traumatizing. I like
The
that
red
type
shirts
of
of horror.
element of horror because we could tell throughout these movies that the entity, one, has a sense of humor, and then two is just like kind of like nuts in a way to the point where like it's kind of sadistic. So in this one, it's a little sadistic. You almost made me kill this girl that I love, obviously, and then you leave her and just for her to die on my lap.
Yeah.
Yeah, the demons were extra like sadistic in this one. Like they'll turn into like the mom and be like, "Hey, Mia," like, bro, no. I was like, this is messed up. You can't do this.
Man.
No,
when
and
she started and like
good
when she started singing the bedtime story that the mom sang, the first time she did it, I was like, she's gonna sing this when she's possessed. Like I just knew she would.
Yep.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah,
Oh,
because
yeah.
he had a big problem with it when she was just singing it. I was like, this gonna come back.
Oh, yeah.
This movie does a great job though with those tropes because there's a rule, as we know in film, if you show a gun, the gun has to get involved somehow. And of course, they show the nail gun in the beginning, then they show the saw, you know, the meat saw, and you're just like, yeah, we know these are coming into these.
And then they
somehow.
faked you out. They faked you out with the chainsaw the first time because she saw the chainsaw. Then she went to and then she got something else. And I was like, "You clever ducks, you!" And then she ended up getting the chainsaw at the end. She was like, she went for the machete and then was like, "No, I'm gonna grab this." So.
Yep.
Listen, when she was pouring that gas in and it was spilling everywhere, I was like, "I'm gonna say this." She played a believable scared person in that moment when she crawled through like the muck and then she crawled up. She played a believable scared person. It was all in her face, all in her eyes. It wasn't too much, it wasn't too little. I didn't feel any fear, but I was like, yo, she's afraid. Like, she's afraid. It's like, wow, pretty good. Because when she was shaking, putting that gas, I was like, it wouldn't have been no gas in there messing with me. So should we rate?
I think we should. I was going to say that. Sorry, I was dealing with something in the chat there.
No, you're fine.
We had another one of those bots pop up. So we're going to do, let's see.
The link. Click the link.
No link clicking. So yeah, we're going to do each movie one at a time. We'll start, we're just going to kind of go around in a circle here. So Evil Dead, Brian.
Evil Dead, let's see. I'm going to give it a 6.
6 out of 10. All right. And you didn't watch it when you were 12, so that means you wouldn't have.
Probably wouldn't watch this.
Yeah. How about you, Tyler?
7.5. I'm a sucker for that first film like charm.
For sure. Lala.
I'm in McBride 6. I'll give it a 6.5. 6.5 just for the Bruce Campbell of it all, you know.
I'm going to give it a 7. I think that it is cutting edge in a lot of ways. No pun intended. He definitely broke ground and defined his career with that film. So I think it deserves that kind of for an accolade. Let's move on to Evil Dead 2. I'm going to go back the other way. Lala.
Evil Dead 2, same movie. I'm gonna always say it. Same movie. I'll give it a 7 though because it's a step up from the other one. So I'll give it a 7.
Okay, Tyler.
I'm gonna give it an 8 because I smiled the whole time. The whole movie.
Nice, solid. And Brian.
Yeah, it's a 7 for me as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Step up.
It's a 10 for me. It is my absolute favorite horror comedy. I will rank that movie above all else. I love it. And it used to be Army of Darkness. I used to think Army of Darkness was the bee's knees. And then, I don't know, like 5 years ago, I watched them both and went, no, Evil Dead 2. Yeah. So that's me. Tyler, Army of Darkness.
I'm gonna give it a 9. I really like. It's so good. Army of Darkness is like if it's not on your top, man, like it's good. It's so good. Like
Fair. And Brian.
Yeah, it's a 9. Yeah.
Fair.
I thought you were.
I've seen it so many times, and if it still makes me like, if I still get a kick out of it after this long,
Fair enough. Lala.
Army of Darkness. Army of Darkness. I give it 8. I give it 8.5.
8.5. All right. So we could round it to a 9 if we want to. I'm kidding.
If you feel froggy, you know, go ahead.
Fair enough. For myself, Army of Darkness, I will also give it a 9. I just don't think it's Evil Dead 2, but it's definitely so solid and so fun. So, and then now we're going to do the 2013. I'm going to give that an 8. I think it is a solid horror film, worth a rewatch. And if you want something gut wrenching and just over the top, it's definitely there for you. Tyler, what do you think? Evil Dead 2013.
Solid 10, bro. It was the best. I'm gonna give it an 8, like, because it doesn't do like it doesn't do anything completely new for me, but it executes it so well that it's like it's
All right, Lala.
See that.
Same. I give it an 8. I give it an 8 because it's pretty much a rip of the first one. Well, first and second one, because same movie. Because it's a rip of that one, they have a better. The quality is better. That's the only thing that's different. The quality is better. If Sam Raimi would have had that quality back then, it would have just been the same thing. So like I'll give it an 8. So it's still pretty good. I give it an 8.
Brian.
Yeah, it's an 8 for me as well. Yeah, just really surprised me. I like that it's different, but also honors, the originals and everything. Yeah. So
all right.
Mm-hmm. It only gets an 8 because of that Ash ending at the end. He turns to the camera.
So you did get to see that. We didn't get to hear your take on that.
Yeah, I watched it. I thought it was funny. I laughed too hard because it was just like he was just like groovy, baby, and he just turned to the side. I was just like, oh, okay.
But he's in it. Like you can't claim he's not in it.
Bruce Campbell being Bruce Campbell is cool.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, so I have a suggestion for the real students because like I want y'all to kind of like get more into the show with us. Not to say you guys aren't, but I think there's more ways you guys can get involved. I think as like a side thing, you guys can kind of try to guess our ratings based on how we talk about the film. Because Biggie actually gave me this idea because he was just like, I just said he's going to give it a 6 in my head. So if you guys know that we're getting, if you watch us enough, you kind of know when we're getting towards the portion of like we're about to like rate the film or whatever. So go through, put all our names, put the numbers that you think that we're going to do. Wait till we say them. Wait till everybody kind of goes through their things and then post it to see if
I like that.
How close you got. I just think I think it'll be fun,
Well, it's because our scales are our own. There is the whole reason we do a scale is to give an idea, but there's no, it's all subjective. So this is, when SNIDBitS gives it a 10, it's because I give.
But they
a lot
also
of things
know
a 10.
us well enough. I feel like they know us well enough, just not from being on the real study, but also our own TikToks when we talk about things. That they probably know us well enough to know like what's your 10, what's my 10, Bryce's 10, Tyler's 10. So like they know where we will lean. So I just think that'd be fun. So just,
I agree.
I'll bring it up. I'll bring it up next week, and then we can just see how it goes and just have fun.
Maybe like mention it like when we start.
Yeah.
Next time too. Like, hey,
I like it.
Cool.
So next week, I do want to bring Trick or Treat to the plate since it will be our Halloween episode, and we're going to kind of cap it off with some great Halloween movies, and so that's one of them. Any other suggestions for like hardcore Halloween movies that you guys can think off the top of your head? Because the other one I had was The Monster Squad. If nobody's seen that, then I think it's a must.
Squad.
You haven't seen it?
Damn.
I haven't seen it. I know
neither of them have seen it, so
Halloween.
we got to do that. Okay, so those are two very very Halloween-esque horror films. So if you guys can think of another one right now, or we can of course talk about this off camera, but I thought I'd get everybody's brain going that way. But we're going to be back to 3 films, and those are 2 of them.
Maybe Krampus. I've always wanted to see it.
Krampus is great because it kind of lends right into the holiday season, so that's pretty great because
I've always wanted to see
it's a Christmas horror movie.
Horror,
but
are we gonna talk Wonder Wild at some point? Because I like just one stop motion like.
Well, the other thing is, if you guys can make sure to catch it on Netflix on the 28th, we could make the other movie, Wendell and Wild, because I'm definitely going to watch it next week as well. But Krampus was just brought. We can always watch Krampus for Christmas.
Krampus
it's definitely a Christmas
movie. It don't matter. I'm just throwing stuff out there. I don't care.
No, yeah, for sure. We're going to discuss that third film off camera for sure, because we haven't decided for sure. But we definitely have the first 2 down. Otherwise, this has been episode 4 of season 2 of The Real Study. Thank you for stopping by. We appreciate all of you, and have a great week.
Peace out.